AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Touchdown, Jalen Hurts.
A drop at the 2 by Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Oh, no. The Eagles come from 10 points down at halftime to beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead 21-17.
The Eagles move on to a home game against the Bills.
It's hard to call the Bills a trap game, but short week, Thanksgiving week, I think that greatly increases the chance of the Bills knocking them off.
We should thank Sean McDermott for putting 12 men on the field in that last play, because it has now brought us our new prodigal son, Joe Brady.
Yeah, that's our guy.
Mike Danger.
The Eagles, they're physical. Smash mouth, if you will. Hard-nosed, Philadelphia, blue-collar, tough, brawny, hard-working. You know what it is? Lunch Pail City.
Gene Battaglia.
The next three are very difficult. Do the Buffalo Bills have the makeup to take 2 of the next 3? Because if the answer is yes, then you got to get this one in Philadelphia this week.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yes. Happy Eve of Thanksgiving, the best holiday of the year, and maybe your holiday starts this afternoon with us. Gene Battaglia with you. It is the Sports Bar, 95.7 FM, AM 950, and streaming everywhere for free on the Odyssey app. You can check us out on YouTube and Twitch and see how wonderful we look. Battaglia here. Draw me over there. The Dandalorian, we call him. Who came up with that nickname, by the way? How did that stick?
So I was watching the Mandalorian series back in like 2019, 2020, around there. It was after it had already been out. It was on a Friday, and I'm just going to tweet out, Dandalorian. And then Danger interacted with me, and he said, "Yeah, it should be your new moniker." Yeah. And so I don't know if he gets the credit or if I get the credit. I guess we can share it, but
I'm going to give it to Danger.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it too much.
You can't give yourself a nickname. You realize that violates the guide.
Well, I really wasn't giving. I just tweeted it out. He said, "Yeah, you should make it." I said, "Okay." So yeah, I guess it would be him getting the credit then.
Yeah. Well, we'll let it stick here today. We have a really busy show here today. Danger is off today. As I like to joke, baking.
He's still baking.
All
those pies.
Baking goodies, a little gingerbread man, and everything for the holidays. Getting ready. We have a loaded show today because we are not here tomorrow. I took tomorrow off.
I'm not here tomorrow.
You're not here.
I'm not here tomorrow.
You're not here tomorrow.
I'm not here the rest of the week. Sorry.
All right. So short week for all of us here, but we have to kind of pick and choose when we're not going to be here, and we figure a lot of people are going to be heading out of town for the holidays tomorrow. So let's get you set up here today in the Sports Bar, and here is what's on tap here at the Sports Bar. It's brought to you by the good folks at Three Heads Brewing. Loopy Oatmeal Red Ale. Yes, it's back. Enjoy this beautiful hoppy red ale with a hint of toasted oats. Get yours at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue today. Now, we got our normal Tuesday guest and then some because, well, it's a short week. So we want to just keep things moving here. You're going to get a lot thrown at you today. But we're going to start off right off the bat talking about the Buffalo Bills. And, oh, my gosh. If you're watching last night, well, let's discuss last night how this will impact the Bills one way or another. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard. He'll be in Philadelphia. He's covering every game. Matt Perino for his weekly segment here, Syracuse Post-Standard and the Shout podcast. Matt will be joining us here at the bottom of the hour. At 4:25 today, back after a week off, Seth Apron. I got to say thank you / apologize because we here in the Sports Bar we want to deliver on your expectation always. And I liken it, a little peek behind the curtain. Some sports talk shows will do it this way. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Bills at 3 o'clock, and then that'll be it. And we're going to talk about baseball and the NBA. No. Your expectation is when you tune in, we're going to give you exactly what you want right then and there. And, oh my gosh, like last Tuesday, the world was literally on fire at this point because the Bills had this, I can say it was a shameful loss to Denver. Mm-hmm. So shameful that it cost somebody his job. And I'm like, and the good folks at the Amerks kind of understood this and the Amerks were out of town last week. So Seth Appert returning to his weekly segment here at 4:25 today in the Sports Bar as the Amerks. That was a bonkers game Saturday night. Ended up, giving up some goals, 3 goals to begin the third, but they end up with a 7-5 win in Cleveland. And now you get the Lavelle Rocket coming in Wednesday and Friday. We'll get the Thoughts of head coach Seth Apper. Now, additional guest today, because we're not here tomorrow, kind enough to move up his weekly segment, PJ Glasser. He's your host of BetQL Send It In, as we will be talking about the lines ahead here, because we have games, Dan, in less
3 on Thursday.
Yeah, less than 48 hours from now. In fact, our first one may be kind of in the fourth quarter at that point, Detroit and Green Bay. So we'll talk to PJ Glasser about Turkey Day football. Very interesting week of college football when you get Michigan, Ohio State, and PJ's going to give us his thoughts on that. PJ, by the way, on the money last week, saying no, Michigan is not going to cover this against Maryland, and I didn't think Michigan was in any danger of losing that game, but I didn't think they were going to cover, and they didn't. So PJ Glasser, he's a guy you want to listen to if you like action. And then to kind of wrap it up all today at 5:45, we'll be talking to the head coach of the RIT men's hockey team, Wayne Wilson, as New Hampshire coming in. They are out of Hockey East. That's how I mixed that up. We will be talking to Wayne as the Tigers are home coming up Friday night at 7:05 and Saturday at 5:05. We have time for your calls, and I would suggest do it now. 866-4326, 866-4FAN. As Danger says, the table is set.
Is it set? Because I'm hungry.
So. Yeah, you're hungry. Last night, my early takeaway is there any team, you're a Bills fan. Is there any team, as a Bills fan, that you're really afraid of? Like, you can't go up against those guys in the AFC. It's not Kansas City. It's just not. We've seen this time and again from this Chiefs team. This is an offense that's kind of stuck in the mud for the high expectations we have. And I'm glad we have a high expectation. We set the bar high in Western New York. You have that quarterback. What are they talking about today in Kansas City? Because this is not a one-week thing. Look at what they did in Denver. Look at how they nearly blew that game over in Germany against Miami. This is a Kansas City team that I don't think is going to be the number one seed. I think it's going to be Baltimore. And yeah, the Chiefs will sleepwalk their way to a divisional win, because who's going to rise up? And they're going to be Denver. The Chargers should fire their coach. The Raiders already did fire their coach. Honestly, Kansas City is the number 2. Would you be scared if the Bills snuck in as a 7 and went to Kansas City as a 2? No, you shouldn't be. Which brings me to Philadelphia. That's a more pressing matter. And I said this yesterday, and I was going to say it again, that there were multiple reasons for Bills fans to pull for Philadelphia last night. Number one, it's a long shot, longest of long shots. But for Kansas City to kind of, trip up there, that's not a bad thing. But in a very strange way, and we talked about this with Mike Catalana, and you heard the soundbite there in the open from the show yesterday, the Bills are a trap game for the Eagles? Yeah. Because if you look at the Eagles' next 2 games, the first 2 in December, San Francisco and at Dallas, this is an Eagles. Those games mean more to Philadelphia than the AFC team coming in, whether that's Buffalo or whoever. So this is the next game up. And I like playing guess the line. I like doing this as an exercise. And more often than not, you can get pretty close. I was completely off on this. Now, if you haven't looked, don't look this up now. We'll just do this together on the air. Bills and Eagles, what would you think the betting line would be? I'm like, well, Eagles are what, 9-1 now? That's really good. They're 1 loss to the Jets. Who cares? And then the Bills, all right, 6-5. Eagles clearly the better team. I would thought it would have been Eagles 6.5, maybe even 7. To me, it's jaw-dropping that it's Eagles by 3, which, if you're doing the old, and I think this is antiquated, but the home field means 3 points. Well, if that's the case, if these teams play on a neutral field, it's a pick'em game? How? Are you not paying attention to what happened in Buffalo here? Yes, you beat up on the Jets. Good. Yay, you. My concern is, have you noticed the injuries in the secondary for the Buffalo Bills? You have Dane Jackson going through concussion protocol. You have Taron Johnson going through concussion protocol. You're hopeful that Taylor Rapp will return. Okay, so let's say you do get back Rapp. Okay, that is problem number 1. And it's an Eagle team that can actually run the ball and move things. So for Buffalo, one thing that kind of helped the Bills offense last week, And gosh darn it, I'm not going to say the C word. It rhymes with bumplementary. The defense getting the ball back so quickly for the offense just gave the offense more possessions. Really. Can we just kind of be honest about that? That the Jets' offense was so bad that the Bills' offense, all right, field goal, no big deal. We got this one. It's not going to be the case this week. You're not going to be able to move. Chris Brown said it earlier today. Hassan Reddick is going to be a problem if he's going up against Spencer Brown. And maybe that means a little more Reggie Gilliam in this. I think, though, the one thing I did like seeing this week was just using the backs in a different way. Just whether that's Ty Johnson putting him in motion and getting that running start, fantastic play, right? Or getting Dalton Kincaid has been this revelation. We could say, why did it take so long? But I am going to be, this is good that we have PJ on today, because to me, if you are someone who likes action, are you not? Is that not Vegas saying, yeah, come on in, bet Philadelphia. You're only giving up 3 points. That's why I'm like, wait a second. What do they know that we don't? Because I would think that the majority of money might go on Philadelphia. 3 seems awfully low. It was at 3.5. It went down to 3. The betting public can't be just that enamored with his Bills team and think, hey, everything is all hunky-dory here.
They must not be impressed based off the Eagles showing last night, or else maybe it would be a higher spread. I would think it'd be 5 or 6, like you said.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. And maybe this is just where the league is at, is that there is no team that makes you say, oh, we can't go up against that. When I was saying, all right, Bills fans, when you're watching Kansas City, you shouldn't worry about Kansas City. I don't think the Bills match up well against Baltimore. I just don't. I know they won down there last year. Maybe somebody else can take care of the Ravens, and you kind of avoid that. Houston is this fun team, but they haven't been there. There should be no fear factor. I'd say there's 3 teams right now in this league that I don't like how the Bills match up against. 3. Okay, 4. I'm going to say 4. You want to take a guess the 4, Danny? Like, which ones right now? And you probably already telegraphed where I'm going with this.
Well, I'm thinking Baltimore, like you said. Maybe Dallas. Maybe Philly.
No hedging. Pick them.
Well, so I said Baltimore. I said Dallas. I said Philly, and then the Niners.
Correct. Those are the 4. Oh. Isn't that fantastic? The Bills have 2 of those 4 on the schedule. 2 of those 4, 2 of the final 6 games for Buffalo are the opponents here, Philadelphia and Dallas. I just think Dallas, Cowboy fans, you can be optimistic. You can, but you got to beat Philadelphia. You got to kind of show something along the way here that, when it comes to these level teams. I've said this, like, if the Bills figure out a way to get this done in Philadelphia, it's 7-5. But 7-5 with you need one of those 2 games that then I think you're in the clear. Meaning, if you can figure out a way in Kansas City or at home against Dallas, you can then rack up. The expectation is that with the Chargers being the mess that they are, the expectation is with the Patriots being the mess they are, and you can't get swept by the Patriots. If they lose to New England, then you don't deserve anything. And then, all right, I will take my chances week 18 knowing it's not going to be 1,000 degrees down in Miami this time around. It's Thanksgiving. It's a holiday week. I'm being optimistic. If the Bills figure out a way to get this done in Philadelphia, this is the linchpin here. And if they don't, again, Kansas City is like, it's funny how like they are having conversations that we were having, like, my gosh, did they not do anything for this offense? We don't have a number 1 receiver. We don't have a number 2. How often should we talk about who's the number 2 receiver on the Buffalo Bills? Should they pay Gabe Davis? They don't have a number 1 in Kansas City. It worked last year just fine. This year, not so much. And you can't tell me it's because Juju Smith-Schuster left. It's because the guys they brought in just haven't worked out the way they thought. I thought Sky Moore would have been more advanced. Not so much. Kadarius Toney, yeah, maybe there's a reason why the Giants offered to flip him. And then MVS, oh, great. Yeah, nice drop there. And Kelsey beginning to show his age. And this murmuring about I don't know. Is Travis Kelce just the new Aaron Rodgers, meaning like, keeping himself in the headlines and talking about maybe retirement, knowing that Who knows? What I know is this. That does not look like the same Chiefs team that we've become accustomed to. You can't just chalk it up to a bad week. When they lost in opening night to the Lions, okay, that'll happen. When they lost at Denver, okay, divisional opponent, that'll happen. They're out of that'll happen games. They're still going to win that division. They still likely will be a top 2 seed. And they're 9-point favorites this week against the Raiders. And they're 9-point favorites against the Raiders this week.
I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
9 times.
Dan's already.
I'm trying to pay attention.
What's your responsibility on Thursday? Are you doing a little baking? Or are you?
I'm not baking like Mike Danger. Sorry.
No, not at all. Happy birthday, by the way, to the executive producer.
Happy birthday.
I will not say her age, but she tweeted me a photo today or something. Not tweeted, just sent me a text and was just like, having ice cream for lunch. I'm like, okay, it's your birthday. No matter what the age, I guess you can go for it, hon. Other news today in the NFL. And I think this is interesting. And the thing I learned today is that Mike Tomlin, Steelers head coach, is a liar. Well, all NFL head coaches lie. They do. But I'm going to just kind of call Tomlin out on the lie. And the lie is this. I made this decision, and I did not consult with the GM, and I did not consult with the owner. If you haven't heard, they fired Matt Canada. They actually did it. They fired the offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, in Pittsburgh. And this is an offense that certainly, you're just kind of looking at it, not up to Steeler expectation, but yet they're in a playoff position. Well, when Tomlin went up there and said this was my decision and my decision alone, leadership is a lonely thing. Okay, that's true. I will hear you on that. And that he did not consult, that's a lie. And what he is doing, and I give him credit on this, he's not leaving the speculative door that Sean McDermott left wide open. Meaning, when we go back to what the Bills did last week, and yes, McDermott said he did it, but he didn't talk about who he consulted with or anything else like that. And when we were joined by Dan Leberfeld from Jets Confidential, he brought up a good point. No, that's normally that's coming from ownership. It's the owner saying, do this. And sometimes you got to do, if you want to keep your job, you got to do what the owner tells you to do. But it makes you look weaker in front of your own team. It makes you look weaker in front of the media and the fan base and everything else. So you present it as your own idea. And maybe Sean McDermott, that was his idea, but you got to run that up the flagpole. But then if you run it up the flagpole, then, you don't want to put blood on the owner's hands or the GM's hands. Well, Mike Tomlin did not put blood on his GM hands, or he didn't put it on his owner's hands. He said, this is my decision, me. And in Pittsburgh, I think this is applauded. I think Steeler fans, everything I read from Steeler fans, what is with this guy? Well, you're not bringing in some new coordinator. You're just promoting from within. So they basically, carved up the responsibilities here where the running back, whatever. They're going to have one guy doing the game planning, another guy calling the plays. Bottom line is Pittsburgh is this. They don't have a quarterback. They just don't. I'm sorry. You weren't smarter than everybody else by drafting Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett ain't it. Kenny Pickett can help you win those ugly games, but you're not winning because of Kenny Pickett. It's the old with or because thing. You can win because of Patrick Mahomes, because of Josh Allen, because of Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett is a with it, and they were winning games, but he's not making those plays. Yes, he made a play at the end of the Baltimore game, very ugly game. All these wins have been ugly for Pittsburgh. So, Steeler fans, I just want to caution you. It's not going to be like what you saw in Buffalo last week. They're like, oh, look at this. Wow, that's a Bills offense we haven't seen since October 1st. Unless you get a new quarterback, which I don't think you're going to get, I would just kind of expect more of the same in Pittsburgh. For your sake, I hope I'm wrong on that. I want to say the Steelers are off this week. No, they get. I beg your pardon. Let's see. Their next game is against Arizona on December 3rd.
I thought they were playing Cincinnati this week.
Cincinnati. That's it, Dan. Thank you. It's just I'm just all messed up this week because
you're baking too, right?
Well, today is like a Friday. That's a Tuesday. Tomorrow is So again, we will be talking to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post Standard, coming up shortly. We will be talking to PJ Glasser about his best plays for the week, and then also we will be talking some hockey in the show today as the Amerks home Wednesday and Friday. Like, what would you expect the combined attendance for the Amerks to be those games? 15. I would hope, because Wednesday night, that's a holiday. And I would hope that they draw really well for that game. And then, Black Friday, you never know what to kind of expect. But I would hope maybe 8 on Wednesday, maybe 7 on Friday. So great to see that the Amerks are back home. I love them when the schedule kind of falls like this. We'll be talking to Seth Appert, head coach. Also, RIT is home this week, Friday and Saturday. Head coach Wayne Wilson will be joining us later on in the show. Coming up next, again, Matt Perino, Syracuse Post Standard, as we'll be talking some Buffalo Bills football. My name is Gene Battaglia, the Dandalorian here as well, and this is the Sports Bar on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. update.
Buffalo Bills opening as a 3-point underdog on the road in Philadelphia this week for head coach Sean McDermott. He's going back to the place where it started.
It was my first job in the NFL, and the place I was at for 12 years plus. And I've learned a lot. I learned a lot in my time there, mostly under Andy Reid, and it was a great experience.
We'll talk some Bills football coming up next. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post Standard, will join us in the sports bar. Pittsburgh Steelers today firing offensive coordinator Matt Canada. Syracuse basketball taking on 11th-ranked Gonzaga at the Maui Invitational, and so far, not so good for SU at the half. Gonzaga leading 39-25. Rochester Americans back home tomorrow night taking on Laval. Head coach Seth Appert to join us next hour. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, my home is here in Buffalo. I appreciate that, John, but I live here in Buffalo, so that's where my family is, and my mom, my dad, my brother, and his family, but home is in Buffalo for us.
Sean McDermott doesn't want your leading question. Get out of here with that. Sean McDermott, Pennsylvania guy, but he's not calling this a homecoming, not by any stretch. As we are lucky to be joined every Tuesday by Matt Perino, Syracuse Post Standard, here on a short week. Matt, I'm watching this game last night, Philadelphia and Kansas City, and I'm just, are there any teams right now in this league that you just say, oh my gosh, I really don't think the Buffalo Bills can go up against this team? It just seems like this is a year where we truly are lacking a dominant team.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think it's why, even as the sky was falling over the last couple of weeks with this team, it's felt like, okay, what's happening elsewhere? I mean, even a team like Baltimore, who, you'd probably be able to poke into that team a little bit and say they've been pretty dominant, but there's been holes, too, along the way. So you're right. Outside of San Francisco, so this season, when San Francisco has been the version that beat the Jags 34-3, that is a legit, barn burner of a team. And so I agree, though. There's not a lot of, at the top of the league, better than everybody else, and I think the Bills just got to find a way into the tournament.
Yeah, I like doing this exercise. And we don't, when we have you on, man, we don't talk about betting lines or it's not our thing. But I think this is interesting to me. Is I like doing trying to guess the line before it comes out, and just to see the Bills are only underdogs by 3 points. I thought that would be much higher, considering, the Eagles' record, considering, there's some injuries in the Bills' secondary. It was one good game for the Bills, but look at the previous marks. Are you surprised at all that it's only Philadelphia minus the 3?
I would have probably put it somewhere around 4.5 or 5, so I am a little surprised that it's basically a pick-em, because Philly gets those 3 for being at home. But I also think there's a lot at play here. Number one, I think anybody that you talk to that's really an expert on, even on the film side of things, would tell you that there were just some minor things that the Bills had to figure out scoring-wise. And the offense was never as bad as maybe it felt because they weren't scoring a lot of points. And you saw that last week. And, when you go against a team like the Jets, who have made their name on shutting great offenses down, and you put up 32 like that, hasn't happened since 2021. I think a lot of eyes are all of a sudden open. And then you have the Eagles, who, it looks hard for them. I mean, if Kansas City doesn't shoot themselves in the foot with the turnover, with a couple of dropped touchdown passes, they probably win going away in that game. So I don't know if Philadelphia is coming off of that game despite their record. Listen, I don't know. I just don't think the NFC is as battle-tested as the AFC. I mean, there's a lot of, the Washington Commanders on your schedule, and the Carolina Panthers, and the Minnesota Vikings. There's a lot of teams that appear on these NFC team schedules that I think if the Bills were playing a lot of those teams consistently, they could probably put together a record similar. Now, I know that they lost to Denver. I know that they lost to the Patriots. But I think that those were a team that was trying to figure things out. I might look like an idiot in 5 weeks, and we might see the Bills regress back to what we saw the weeks before. But I think that is a galvanizing kind of performance. I think the defense is playing well. If they turn the ball over, they can beat any team in this league, because I think offensively, if Joe Brady is infusing a bit of confidence into that group, and it feels that they're a confident bunch right now. I mean, just listening to some of the NFL film stuff that's come out this week on the sideline. You saw the Dalton Kincaid kind of stuff on the sideline as well in that video that came out the last couple of hours. That's huge for a group that's got all the talent that could go toe-to-toe with any team. They just have to believe they can.
Matt Perino, Shout Podcast, Syracuse.com, Syracuse Post-Standard, catch his work there. Matt, and as far as the week here, and what an interesting week it was, because it was 1 week ago where we learned that Ken Dorsey was fired, and all of a sudden things look much better. So as far as the Jets game and what you saw out of that offense, and you mentioned how the confidence and maybe having fun, but as far as Brady and what he was doing with that offense tactically, what would you say would be the biggest difference you saw this past Sunday?
It wasn't all that different. I think the motion was obviously up quite a bit. I think they ran motion on 76% of their snaps. Chris Trapasso tweeted that out yesterday. I had actually gone back and watched the game and tracked how many times they ran shotgun versus under center. And I think it was like 50-some-odd plays shotgun and 17 plays under center. And when they were under center, I felt like there was a plan. I felt like it was they were making a point. And listen, I think Josh Allen likes playing in the shotgun. He gets to see everything a little bit better. It helps kind of mitigate some of the problems in pass protection as well. They can do a little bit more motion. I mean, I thought it was interesting. You saw Stephon Diggs motioning a couple times across the formation. Once he went behind the quarterback, once he went in front, and it was almost like a fake handoff. I mean, they did a lot of interesting things that I just don't know if we had seen as much. And Joe Brady talked about it yesterday about, it's one thing to motion, but you have to motion with a purpose. And it felt like they knew what they wanted to do when they did that. And I can't remember which touchdown it was, or maybe it was just a completion. I think it was maybe Baldinger that put it out. But Allen sending Ty Johnson out in motion to kind of get a read on the defense. Then he sent him the other way, and the defense wasn't going to be able to get. Oh no, it was James Cook on the James Cook touchdown, and he ended up sending him out of motion, bringing him back in, and he knew that defender on the left side wasn't going to be able to get across field to be able to cover him for that easy touchdown pass. And it's just like, to me, that felt like Josh Allen is operating the offense at a level of calm while having that enthusiasm and that swagger that I think everybody's been waiting to see that come out in him. And so that, to me, is the biggest Joe Brady effect right away. And I think that was an easy predictor because of what, the kind of style of personality, play caller that Ken Dorsey was.
Yeah, Matt, there was one thing, too. I mean, hard not to, recognize the game that Khalil Shakir had and the play that he had and that, that explosiveness that we haven't seen this year out of this offense. But I want to couple the question with what I saw afterward from Gabe Davis, and that was, wait a second, the locker room's not even open. There's Davis in street clothes getting the heck out of there, and I can't tell you if he was upset or not, but not that kind of, you won the game, dude. Like, you're not going to answer. So I guess my question here, Matt, is could we expect more Khalil Shakir? Could he actually develop into wide receiver 2 for this team down the stretch?
Yeah, it's funny. People were killing me in the offseason when I said part of the Gabe Davis conversation when it came to extension was baking in what they thought of Shakir, because I thought he was kind of the natural heir apparent. Now, he's kind of developed into more of a slot receiver, but I do think that there's a higher ceiling to what he can do in their offense than just, pigeonholing him into that role, which he plays well. He's been really doing well in that. But the Davis piece is interesting that you bring that up that way, because I thought it was interesting that Joe Brady said yesterday that went out of his way to make sure that he said Gabe Davis for him was the game ball because of how he handled things. And to your point, leaving the locker room early, not wanting to talk in the locker room for a second straight game, that's concerning for a captain. Now, I will say this. When we talked to him on Thursday last week, I thought he was really good. Like, I thought everything that he said, the reflective nature to what had happened and the frustrations of that Denver game, it made a lot of sense. But I have to imagine there's a bit of frustration. This was a guy that had those 4 touchdowns against Kansas City in 2021, and the sky was the limit. Everybody was expecting him to take off and become this explosive number 2. And he's in a contract year and staring at probably a disappointing February and March in 2024, because I don't know that a team can feel comfortable even giving him Jacoby Myers money at this point because of the inconsistency from a production standpoint. And I don't know if that's all on him. I think there's probably some game planning, playing with Stephon Diggs, the inability, like at times the lack of separation, the times where he's dealt with injury. There's a lot baked into it. But at the end of the day, it's a results-driven business, and people want to, know that you can produce at a high level. And he's staring at probably a disappointing haul in free agency.
Yeah, and you forget that the pressure these guys are under, that their next contract always tied to the performance. We were talking to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, a guy who did get his contract already, but I don't know when he's coming back. And I guess that's kind of the question. And Sean McDermott addressing this yesterday. What do we know what's going on with Dawson Knox? I mean, has he permanently lost his spot, I would think, as tight end number 1 on this team?
Dalton Kincaid's on pace for a record-breaking tight end season, not only for a rookie, but a tight end in Bills history when it comes to a pass catcher. And so I do think that they're going to have to reimagine things a little bit. I do think that there is a world that they can live in where they don't have to lean so heavily into 12 and keep each other fresh. Like, there's things that Dawson Knox does well. Listen, the guy went on some type of crazy run a couple of years ago where it was 8 or 9 straight games with a touchdown or something like that going into the playoffs, or 7 out of 8 games, whatever the streak was. I can't remember off the top of my head. He can get hot. That's the upside of Dawson Knox's game, and he's a guy that's been in this offense for a long time. He's got a good rapport with Allen already. It hasn't looked great this year, but I think a lot of it has just been the challenge of getting Dalton Kincaid injected into this offense, all while trying to figure out what that means for everybody else. And with him out of the picture, Kincaid's been able to get real comfortable because he's gotten a heavy target share. His target-to-catch ratio is among the tops in the league over the last, 6 weeks. And so you don't want to take that away from this offense because it's finally starting to click a little bit. But to your point, it gets really interesting when you try to get Knox back into the mix. How does that look? Can you do it in a way that doesn't take away from what Kincaid's been doing?
Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, who will also be down in Philadelphia coming up this week, as I think, where the concern was about the offense heading into this game, the concern has to be about the secondary. So, Matt, from the Zoom calls yesterday and from people you're talking to, the level of concern right now for the secondary here with Jackson, protocol means that, basically I'd say protocol is like, that's the stiff arm, that's the HIPAA. Don't ask us about the protocol, it's the protocol. So I know not to ask what are the chances because we really don't know. But, Matt, what if all 3 guys aren't there? Because they're saying positively about Rapp. There's positivity about Rapp, but the other 2 guys we really don't know at this point.
Yeah, to me, Taron Johnson is the big concern. You don't want to be without that guy against this offense. And I know that it's a passing offense that struggled a little bit, but just from a tackling perspective, and listen, you could consider me the card-carrying member of the Cam Lewis fan club. Went to UB. I'm obviously a homer for my alma mater. But that's a big role to fit into. And by the way, he's banged up, and he gets a bit banged up at times, and struggles a little bit to stay healthy when he's in the game. That's happened to him going back to his rookie season. So then you're looking at Saran Neal, and I just think that there's a considerable drop off for a defense now that's without a lot of guys that have been in that system for a long time. Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, guys that you rely upon on that back 7, and then also Micah Hyde being day-to-day is a huge concern, because if Rapp can't go, because you're right, that's kind of up in the air. If Hyde makes his way along and he's a question mark, you could be looking at taking, first of all, your dime package completely out of play in this game, and then probably having to start Jordan Poyer and Lewis maybe, or DeMar Hamlin, and then play Lewis at the slot or Neal at the slot. This is going to be a really interesting week following that practice report, which we won't actually have on Wednesday. We won't actually get out there because it's a walkthrough, and then Thursday they're off. So we really won't have a clear picture outside of the team reports until Friday.
Yeah, so Thursday, is that just not open to media, or is it just off? Sean McDermott he gave everybody a holiday on a Thursday. Is that unusual, Matt? Or?
They're probably doing a lot of walkthrough stuff anyway, and maybe they moved up something to today. I do remember in years past that Thanksgiving, when they weren't playing on that day, was an off day. Obviously a huge, and who knows, maybe they will do something. I'm not sure. We'll find that out tomorrow when we get a more clear picture, when we get a chance to talk to Sean.
You know, you've heard this knock against the Buffalo Bills over the year. Oh, they're not physical enough. They're not physical enough. Okay. You know what? Let's see if they're physical, because I cannot wait until there's a 4th and 2 call in this game, Matt. Bring out Linval Joseph. I want to see Jordan Phillips or Ed Oliver. I'm fascinated to see how the Bills are going to defend here against the brotherly shove.
Yeah, it's a tough play to defend against, and I think you're probably going to come up short against it. They're really good at it. So I kind of look at the other side of the ball, and like I mentioned, if you score against this Eagles team, and it's no easy feat. I mean, they're a good defense, but they're an underperforming defense. I think people thought they were going to be much better than they've been, and there's been a couple of games this year where I've watched them, and I'm like, okay, I mean, they're good. They obviously get some pressure. Son Reddick is a huge problem, but to me, you treat him like Max Crosby. You give Spencer Brown a little bit of help on the outside. You got Quentin Morris. You got Reggie Gilliam. Get creative with how you do that. And I also think that the Bills, the one thing on how Brady operated, again, still 18 straight plays out of shotgun to start the game. Against this team, I don't know if that's necessarily the recipe. I think you want to come out early in this game and mix it up, be a little bit more balanced in that attack, run some play action early. Like I might even run like a heavier personnel package and run play action early, like in the first 3 plays, and take a shot with somebody. Like maybe that's the Deontay Hardy factor. But you need a big splash kind of in the first quarter early in this game against this team to kind of, put them on edge and make them not be able to settle into their playing style. Because as we saw, you let them hang around, you let them be able to run the ball with DeAndre Swift. They're really good at it.
Yeah. So, Matt, Sean McDermott going back to Philadelphia, and he's not taking the bait on any of this court, but none of these guys are going to admit, but it has to mean more. And again, Andy Reid's not in Philadelphia, and it's the same fan base, it's the same owner. Or am I reading too much into this? Where do you think McDermott's head is at as he heads back to Philadelphia for the first time in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of that. I mean, obviously it's close to his home and all that kind of stuff. There was a lot of, that was an emotional time of his, probably of his career, being able to work so close to home. But, you don't get the opportunity in his position to really dwell on that kind of thing. Like, they're 6-5. This is a must-win game. Like, and that's crazy. Like, even saying that out loud right now, I'm like, dude, do I walk that back? Is this really a must-win game? It really is. Like, you got Houston they're sitting there at 6-4. You got 7-3 Cleveland, and I don't know if either of those two teams are going away. And I know Pittsburgh is 6-4, and maybe they will go away, and you'll have one of the 3. You kind of roll the dice and figure it out, but you can't take that risk. And I think they got to come out in here and win this game. I know Kansas City looks ripe for the picking, but that defense is a lot better. I think that's going to be a chance for Patrick Mahomes, who's had some success against the Bills in the past, to do a little bit more offensively. I think you want to try to get yourself ahead a little bit before you get into the real heart of this gauntlet. And not that Philadelphia isn't part of the gauntlet. They might be the toughest test of them all. But I think you're getting them at a time where it doesn't look like Jalen Hurts is 100%. It doesn't look like that passing game is operating like it did a year ago. And I think that they're kind of ripe for the picking. And if you're Sean McDermott, all that outside noise is just extra cloudiness that you want nothing to do with. And that's got to be tough because there is probably like a cool part about going back, but at the same time he was fired, so I don't know.
Yeah. Is the best path or no, Matt, to still win the division? Of course, that's the preferred path, right, because you get a home game, but I just asked the question because I look at the Dolphins' schedule, and yeah, you all you need to do is make up one game. And you get the Dolphins there on Christmas Eve. They host Dallas. Tough game. They go to Baltimore on New Year's Eve. Tough game. I mean, I could see losses there potentially, but then I look, okay, they're playing the Jets on the road. They're playing the Commanders on the road. Who knows who's coaching the Commanders by that point? They host the Titans. Who knows who's coaching the Titans at that point? And you get the Jets again. So the idea that can the Bills make up the one game they need to in the standings to at least make that a winner-take-all game there in Week 18?
Man, I just absolutely love the NFL for this more than anything. How quickly you go from just hating a team as a fan base to becoming like their biggest fans the next week. Because all Bills fans need and want right now is for the Jets to beat the Dolphins on the Black Friday. And listen, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. This is a pretty proud group. They're considerably healthy. I think you have a Sauce Gardner who was, I wouldn't go so far to say he was embarrassed, but I definitely don't think he was thrilled about an 81-yard touchdown where, he appeared, whether or not they were playing zone coverage or not, he appears on the highlight reel going for an interception and getting burned by Khalil Shakir, who's not necessarily a speedster. A lot of people questioning his effort in getting back after the ball on that. So, I don't know. I think the Jets can win either of these games, and I think that the Dolphins defensively are playing better, but I also think that they're getting them at an interesting time to switch at quarterback. Like, I don't think Tim Boyle is very good, which is a problem, but who knows? Like, maybe he goes in there, gets something going, they get Breece Hall going in that game. You never know. But, it's a fun league when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah, Matt, I want to say one of the reasons why the Buffalo Bills won, it's the juju. Did you see what Stephon Diggs was wearing entering the stadium? Probably. Let me describe it for you. He was wearing a throwback Rochester Rattlers jersey. That is the lacrosse team that's now defunct here in Rochester, one that I was once the play-by-play guy for. My heart is warmed seeing that he's making that connection to Rochester coming in here, Matt. I mean, that guy knows fashion too, having been on the Met Gala.
Wow, that's big time. I thought he was wearing like an Atlanta Braves garb.
Well, that kind of ruined it for me because I was ready to retweet it, and as a Met fan, I can't get behind that part, so I'm a little conflicted on that part. So you did see it then.
I saw it. That's awesome, man. Like I'm happy when you're happy, and that sounds like that made you really happy. So awesome.
Remember, who I didn't, Dan, I saw Matt up there in the press box, Dan DeLorean in today. No invite for the Shout Podcast, but we invite people to check out the Shout Podcast.
You can't invite yourself onto the show. Come on.
Listen, I like the show whenever they need something. Matt, it's a funky week here, so what is the schedule for the Shout Podcast?
We'll be live Wednesday. We'll do a preview show on Friday. I am working on a look at the Eagles with Eagles reporter that might be out sometime Thursday. These are tougher as we get into the season because with the Eagles playing on Monday Night Football, that's kind of a tough turnaround. So I'm working on that. We might be able to get that in. And by the way, fake news. I walked into the one little side room there that you were there. I was ready to just fire it up. You could have done your stuff right behind me. And you could have had a little segment. So I don't know about this.
Wait a second. I had my phone on me. Damn. I'm not going to Philadelphia either. So
I know. Listen, you know what you could do? After the game, just take a little iPhone video and film yourself and give me your hottest take and then text it over. And then if it doesn't get in the show, then maybe I will just have had bad reception. I just didn't get it.
Well, maybe I'll just kind of, hey, this is Gino from Spencerport, and I think you guys are great, but then you'll never know. It's is that really Gene, or is that somebody trolling, or is that Gene? You see, you won't know. You won't know.
You got to come up with, you got to change your voice a little bit, really get aggressive with the take.
Matt, I hope you get to shut it down Thanksgiving. You have earned it. Some good holiday time, and we're thankful for you, buddy, here and all the Bills news and takes you drop on us here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, I love you guys, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody in Rochester. It's going to be a nice year to not have that stress on Thanksgiving. Just eat it up, watch a bunch of other teams, and enjoy time with family.
Sounds good, Matt. Appreciate you. Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, stopping by here on a short week, which we're appreciative of. Couple things I want to point out. One, like if you thought about this, I was talking today, the good folks at Bill Gray's, the tap room. We do the thing with CMF, and we're planning things out, and just kind of raise the point. Like, well, if the Bills win the division, there's a pretty good chance the 4-5 game always goes in as the night game because that's the one they want the certainty. Oh my gosh, we could have another night game for the Buffalo Bills. Oh, there might be another one too. What about that Week 18 game against the Dolphins? If that's a winner-take-all game, that's exactly what NBC would want. That's a playoff game. Good chance that could be a night game. Oh, there's another chance, too. And Peter King brought this up in his Monday column. The fact that, we get this on a Sunday night. The Patriots and the Chiefs. Oh, my gosh. You're kidding me. Nobody wants to watch the Patriots and Bailey Zappi or whatever they're going to trot out there. It's not like the Chiefs are this great flashy draw either. They're reverting into the Kansas City boring Chiefs. Could the Bills-Cowboys game get flexed? Now, they would have to make up their mind on that next week. That is a very scary possibility because I think Bills fans, they've come around on this, and somebody can disagree with me, but it was fun. We're being recognized. Yay. Look at us. We're national television. More often than not, Bills fans want their football at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, maybe at a 4:25. And the fact that you could get flexed once, maybe twice more, just how the schedule falls. And maybe if you do get in as the 4 seed, you're going to be on Monday night. You just get ready for more night games that you weren't planning. I'm just kind of foreshadowing things that I see here. I don't think the Cowboy game gets flexed, and here's why. What the NFL has told us through what they didn't do with the Jets and Raiders. Oh my gosh, they're putting us the Jets and Raiders. You know what the NFL is saying? Hey, networks, our deal isn't up for a while. It costs us money to move these games. So you're going to take Jets Raiders and you're going to like it. And they're going to do the same thing, I think. It's going to be like, yeah, you know what? The Chiefs, people, good enough. You're going to take Chiefs and Patriots and you're going to like it. So again, it's a possibility. All this talk about flexing and, oh my gosh, they can flex Thursday Night Football. You can flex Monday Night Football. They're not flexing anything to this point. But that being said, they haven't chosen a game time for Week 18 yet. Like, if this game means something, it's not 1 o'clock. That we know. It'll either be 4:25 or, as Bills fans, no, not another one. Because when there's a night game, we're all a half beat slower the next day, especially you go to the game. It's a long day when you go out there. We have our good friend, PJ Glasser. He is your host to Send It In on BetQL. It is a short week. And again, brought up the fact, Bills +3? That's it? Fishy, fishy, fishy. Is that Vegas saying, come bet Philadelphia. Everybody bet Philadelphia. They know Buffalo. Are you taking that as a good sign? Am I reading too much into this? Because to me, that looks fishy. Well, I have not talked about this. I know it's going to be the topic. Our guy, PJ Glasser, who he hit a lot of things right last week. We'll talk to PJ coming up next year. We got Emmerich's head coach Seth Appert. We got Wayne Wilson also on the show today. And at some point in the 4 o'clock hour, your calls as well. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia. Danger is out today. Dan DeLorean here as well. And this is the Sports Bar on the Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Bills players are off today. Head coach Sean McDermott also giving the team Thanksgiving Day off. The team a 3-point underdog in Philadelphia this coming week. Chris Brown on One Bills Live today on what concerns him heading into this game.
I will tell you, though, that the kind of rusher that Hassan Reddick is the one that has historically given Spencer Brown problems because he's so tall and long. A shorter, bendier player can get underneath his arms, underneath his shoulder, and those are the guys that do give Spencer Brown problems.
We'll talk about that line, Bills-Eagles, with PJ Glasser. Here's your host, BetQL. Send it in. He joins us next year in the Sports Bar. Pittsburgh Steelers today firing offensive coordinator Matt Canada. Syracuse trying to claw their way back into this one. Gonzaga has just hit a 3, 53-47. The Orange trailing. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Touchdown, Jalen Hurts! A drop at the 2 by Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Oh no! The Eagles come from 10 points down at halftime to beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead 21-17.
The Eagles move on to a home game against the Bills.
It's hard to call the Bills a trap game, but short week, Thanksgiving week, I think that greatly increases the chance of the Bills knocking them off.
We should thank Sean McDermott for putting 12 men on the field in that last play, because it has now brought us our new prodigal son, Joe Brady.
Yeah, that's our guy.
Mike Danger.
The Eagles, they're physical. Smash mouth, if you will. Hard-nosed, Philadelphia, blue-collar, tough, brawny, hard-working. You know what it is? Lunch Pail City.
Gene Battaglia.
The next three are very difficult. Do the Buffalo Bills have the makeup to take 2 of the next 3? Because if the answer is yes, then you got to get this one in Philadelphia this week.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Action-packed show today. We had Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, joining us talking some Buffalo Bills football earlier. And if you missed it, well, here's what you can do. You can download the Odyssey app and use the rewind feature. Up to 72 hours, you can listen back in time to our radio station. You can give us a call today. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. Check out the new location, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. Good Smoke BBQ.com. More your calls coming up next because that's who we have right now. PJ Glasser on on this short week. PJ, I appreciate you moving some things around for us. And normally we start with college, but if we can just kind of invert here today, we start with the NFL because this is a topic on the show, and I'd like to play like Let's Guess the Line. And I was really off on this one because I thought, okay, I would say Philadelphia by 6, Philadelphia by 6.5. Wait a second. Right now in BetQL, it's the Eagles giving 3. That's it. Like Buffalo is only a 3-point underdog in this one, and I think, whoa, I'm slamming on the brakes here, PJ. Trying to wonder, like, all right, is this them saying, come on in, the water's warm, let's bet Philadelphia here? How do you view this matchup here? Buffalo showing some life against the Jets, but this isn't the Jets they're going up against.
No, yeah, Gene, this is an interesting week, man. There are a couple spreads that you look at the board, like the Titans are only 3.5 at home against the Panthers this week. That was one that stuck out, and then this Bills and Eagles game as well. I think what the line's telling you, Gene, is that even though the Eagles are 9-1, they're certainly not playing like a 9-1 team. And, last night they certainly got fortunate to win that game. Dallas a couple weeks ago, they certainly could have lost that. New England at the beginning of the year. I mean, there's been some games where they're winning, and you got to give them credit for that. But as we know, odds makers don't look at wins and losses. They dive deep into yards per play and all these different stats and metrics. So the line is telling you the Bills are the right side. I like the Bills in the game. I think anything 3 or north of 3. This game opened at 3.5. So if you got the hook, I think that's a great bet as well. Buffalo, Gene, as you and all the listeners know, I mean, it's must-win at this point every game the rest of the way. And the Eagles are just due a loss at this point. It's kind of like the Steelers where they had this great record. They keep getting outgained in every game, and eventually that's going to catch up with them. Eagles get another really good team this week in Buffalo, and I think the odds makers think they're on upset alert. So the line certainly is a little lower than you may think, Gene, but I'm rolling with the Bills this week. I like them +3. I think there's a chance they win the game.
Yeah, another thing, and we were discussing this, it's like it seems silly to say the Bills are the trap game, but if you look at the Eagles' schedule, yeah, they're going to want to show up against the Niners and then the Cowboys the following week. So of these 4 games, this is probably the one they care about the least here, if there is such a thing.
That's exactly right. And, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago with the Bengals, and I love betting these kinds of things in the NFL, Gene. I've told you and Danger before on the show, when it comes to NFL, spots are always above everything because at the end of the day, they're all professionals. Anybody can beat anybody. We saw that this past week with Washington and New York. And like you said, obviously Super Bowl rematch coming out of the bye. Philly, that game is getting their full attention. San Francisco, a rematch from the NFC title game, a team that they know they very well could see down the road. That's going to get their full attention. And then Dallas, obviously a divisional opponent, somebody who you're going to need to beat. You get that tiebreaker between the two of them and all but clinch the NFC East. So even though it's crazy to think that a game against the Buffalo team, who's a perennial playoff team, might not get the Eagles' full attention, I'm with you, Gene. I think the spot right here is really tough for Philadelphia, and maybe they're a little bit sleepwalking into this game and not as sharp. And obviously, they're on a short week playing the Bills just playing last night against the Chiefs.
Yeah, we're pulling everything a little ahead here today. PJ Glasser, kind enough to join us on a Tuesday, normally on a Wednesday spot with us here in the sports bar, as we're just kind of getting acquainted with some of these matchups. And we have Jaguars-Texans in the early game coming up Sunday, which looks like a coin flip game, at least from a betting standpoint. Jacksonville giving the 1.5, over-under at 48.5. PJ, how do you lay this one out?
Gene, it's crazy we're in Week 12, isn't it? And you could argue that this might be the game of the week in the NFL. I know Seattle, San Francisco on Thanksgiving is going to be a big game. Buffalo, Philadelphia, obviously. But this game right here, Gene, winner of Jags-Texans on Sunday. They have first place in the AFC South and control their own destiny. The Texans are 10-1 in their last 11 games against the Jags. I don't think many people realize that. Wow. Now, both teams have obviously been bad here the last 4 or 5 years. But even last year, the Texans beat them once. They obviously beat them earlier this season. But it's tough to beat a good team twice, Gene. And Houston kind of feels like the AFC version of Detroit. It seems like people are really falling in love with this young team, and everybody loves Stroud, and they like D'Amico Ryans. I think Jacksonville's better, and just, again, do we really trust this young Houston team to beat a team as talented as Jacksonville twice? I do not. So I like Jacksonville this week on the road. I like a -120. I'd grab it now, Gene. Wouldn't shock me if this game closes as Jags -2.5.
PJ, one team I'm having trouble putting my finger on, that's the Rams, where, they beat Seattle here. And now you were thinking, all right, they get the Cardinals. Easy one. This is a pick'em game. Am I falling into the trap here if I'm saying take the Rams straight up here?
No, not at all. And this is all about the fact that the Rams own Arizona in Arizona. Gene, the last time the Cardinals won a home game against the Rams, you have to go all the way back to 2013. They've lost 8 straight games against them at home. So usually in this rivalry, in this series, whenever these teams play, the road team seems to always have the advantage. And the NFC West, I feel like we talk about it on this show all the time. It feels like, San Francisco owns L.A. and L.A. owns Seattle, and they own the Cardinals on the road, and it's just like each team kind of plays well against one another. So maybe if you're nervous about the status of Cooper Kupp, I understand if you want to wait and see if he's available on Sunday. But, the Rams made that comeback against Seattle without Kupp out there. I still like them in this game, regardless of whether or not Kupp plays. The Arizona's obviously healthy now with Murray and Connor back, but I still like the Rams in this spot, Gene. I would take a -110 and a pick 'em.
PJ Glasser will tell you more about his holiday schedule coming up here as one more NFL game we can kind of quiz you on. And it's not a game that I'm looking forward to watching per se here. The Patriots and Giants, that could just be some bad football. But from a betting standpoint, Is there anything here? Because I'm looking like, wait a second, how are the Patriots favored by anybody, much later it's favored on the road, but then I look at the over-under at 33 and a half. 33 and a half. That's gross. And I'm thinking, you know what, PJ, I might go under on that.
Gene, I don't know how you could go over. It would be under or pass. That's certainly the play. But I do like the Patriots in this game. They've only won 2 games this season. Both teams are terrible, as we know. But this is the thing you look for in the NFL. The look-ahead line in this game was 5.5. Now it's all the way down to 3. The Patriots are coming off a bye. They're well-rested. The Giants have played a couple of divisional opponents in a row in Dallas and Washington. And, Gene, think about how bad the Giants are. They forced 6 turnovers in that game last week. They forced 5, and Washington still had a chance to win at the end of the game. So I know the Giants won. This line still shouldn't be as low as it is, even against the Patriots. And these are the kind of games that the Patriots win, right? Like, they've beaten the Jets 14 straight times with that anemic offense. Like, if the Patriots are going to beat anybody, it's a team like the Giants who doesn't have a good offense. They muck up the game. They're going to make life miserable for DeVito. Washington had 9 sacks in that game last week. So there's a reason New England's favored in this game. I know the Giants are coming off a win, and a lot of people are going to like them, but for me, Gene, the side is still New England -3.
All right, so I'm going to be watching this one on Friday as college football we turn our attention to. And talk about over-unders, PJ. Iowa, Nebraska. Iowa, just when you thought they couldn't go lower, this would set the record if it stands. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I'm looking at 26. Not a first half, not 26 for the game. Iowa, Nebraska. So, like, are you going anywhere near that? What would be your advice on that? How would you play with the Hawkeyes getting 2 here against the Cornhuskers?
Gene, nothing says I'm thankful like Iowa football. Am I right? I mean, that offense and watching them play. To your point about the total, though, an incredible stat, and Matt Fortuna tweeted this out. I believe the last 9 times an Iowa game has featured a total of 35 or lower, the under is hit all 9 times.
Wow.
So we joke about Iowa and their offense, but, Gene, at this point, you can't set a total low enough for anybody to take the over. So it would probably be the under if I had to play it. I actually do like Nebraska, though, in the game. I just take them on the money line. They're favored by 2.5 because the total being so low. I don't want to mess around with the 2.5. I just want to bet them to win the game. Now that we've gotten to the last weekend of college football, Gene, something you have to consider when betting these games are the 5-win teams and who is motivated to make a bowl game. And I think Nebraska is the perfect 5-win team that you're looking for this week because they have a first-year head coach in Matt Rule who's looking to resurrect that program, looking to get them going in the right direction. And you're playing an Iowa team that really doesn't have any motivation. They've already locked up the Big Ten West. They're already playing in the Big Ten championship game. So I think it's a perfect storm of we're getting an Iowa team with really nothing to play for, and we're getting a Nebraska team who really wants to make a bowl game. I like the Cornhuskers quite a bit to win the game on Friday.
Yeah, look, there's one 5-win team. We can't play this in New York State, but I don't want to go anywhere near Syracuse. Firing Dino Babers, and yes, they're home this week. No, that would be my advice. Don't go anywhere near that one, but I can see your point on certainly these other games with these 5-win teams. PJ Glasser, our guest here. Oregon State, 2 ranked teams. This is the primetime game on Fox on Friday. And, boy, the Pac-12 has been a lot of fun. But I'm looking at this. Oregon State getting 13.5. That's just kind of saying come in and bet the Beavers here. Or should we buy into that, PJ?
Gene, Oregon's a really fascinating team because obviously now in this new era of the college football playoff, eye test is the word that gets thrown around a lot. And if you just watch Oregon play football, they might be the best team in the country. They're certainly in the top 3 or 4. You look at the resume, though, obviously lost a 3-point game to Washington. Their best win is against Utah, who's not ranked anymore. They've kind of fallen off a little bit. So even though Oregon's this really good team, you know, they don't really have a great win this season. Utah is an extremely tough place to play, and that is a solid win. But certainly you look at some of these other top teams, and they have 2, 3, 4 wins against teams that are still ranked right now. So I would lean Oregon State if I had to play the side, but I really like the over in the game, Gene. The last 12, civil wars between these two. The over is hit in 10 of them. It opened at 61. It's at 62.5. Oregon's got a great offense, as we know. They can score on anybody. And Oregon State's offense has actually been way better on the road than they have at home this season. So I think we get some fireworks in Eugene on Friday, Gene. I'd take the over. And, I also like the Beavers, plus 13.5 as well.
I saw what you did there. At least you didn't go Eugene on Eugene. I appreciate that, PJ. PJ Glasser, our guest here at the Sports Bar. Alabama and Auburn, Iron Bowl. This is what I love. Like, this weekend here, we get these matchups. You just kind of settle in. I just know I should be getting a good game regardless of what's happened this season. And, Auburn isn't what they used to be. Alabama kind of farting around there in terms of the national picture here. They need this one, PJ. Is that good enough reason to lay the 14.5?
Gene's favorite bet of the entire season is the Auburn Tigers plus 14.5.
Whoa!
A great stat that I love is this is the fourth time since Saban's been at Alabama. He's bringing a team into the Iron Bowl at Jordan-Hare, which is key, at Jordan-Hare this year, not Bryant-Denny. This fourth time he's bringing in an undefeated SEC team into the Iron Bowl. He is 1-2 straight up in those 3 previous games. So this game always gives them trouble. It always gives them trouble at Jordan-Hare. Gene, if this game was at Bryant-Denny, if it was in Tuscaloosa, they'd win by 4 touchdowns. Wouldn't even sweat it. But at Auburn, it's a completely different story. The worst thing that could have happened to Bama was Auburn losing that game last week outright to New Mexico State. Because now maybe Bama's feeling that Auburn's the worse than they thought. Maybe there's just a little bit of complacency that sets in. I love betting these spots. When a team has a look ahead, they lose outright. We get more value on the spread. Gene, this line should be 11.5. This shouldn't be 14.5. We're getting a big-time key number in a rivalry game. This is why Hugh Freeze was brought in to be the head coach of Auburn, because he'd beaten Saban twice when he was at Ole Miss. This is why he is there. I think they give him a game, Gene. I really do. I think this game is going to be one possession. I think Bama wins by a field goal, but I love Auburn, plus 14.5. Biggest bet of the weekend.
Yeah, and PJ, let me remind people that last week, your best play, like, hey, no, Maryland, take the points. Michigan is not going to cover. They didn't. So that leads us to the game we're all going to be watching Saturday. Michigan hosting Ohio State. Buckeyes, second ranked. Michigan, third ranked. No Jim Harbaugh on the sideline. Not sure if that matters or not at this point. How do you see this one going?
Gene, I mean, it's going to be an awesome football game. The line is really interesting, right? So Michigan's favored by 3.5 at home, and you probably give them 3.5 points for the home field advantage. It's the big house, biggest stadium capacity in the entire country. Ohio State's in town. Both teams are undefeated. So I would probably give Michigan 3.5 for the home field. So that line is telling us that these teams are even on a neutral site. I can't get there. I really don't trust either quarterback, but I certainly like McCarthy more than I like McCord for Ohio State. I think both defenses are elite. The difference in the game is the O-line for Michigan and the running backs for Michigan. And I think that's ultimately where this game is won. Harbaugh not being on the sideline certainly could come into play with a game that you think is going to be close throughout, and there can be some big decisions down the line. But, Gene, I like Michigan in this game. I'm going to hold out, and I'm going to hope that we're going to get a flat 3. I don't think we are. But if it stays at 3.5, I like Michigan regardless. But if you're like me and you like the Wolverines, hoping for a 4 that we can get them. But I think they win the game on Saturday.
PJ Glasser bringing it here today. Thank you for being so flexible with the schedule. And, with your schedule, how's the holiday week shaping up for you? Do you at least take off Thursday on the show, PJ?
We do, but I'm filling in on the morning show on Thursday, 6 to 9 on the Daily Tip, Gene. So you know me working, and then I'll have my show back on Friday, send it in 1 to 1:30, and then me and Ryan Horvath will be filling in on You Better You Bet 3 to 7. So it's a great time of the year. Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday, but as you know, Gene, it's also a great time of the year for sports. College football, we got Feast Week going on. How about the 2 college hoops games we got tonight, Gene, in Maui? So A lot of great stuff. Appreciate you having me. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, and always great to be on with you.
Ryan Horvat, is he related to the hockey player by any chance? What is his name?
Oh, Bo Horvat. No, Gene, no, he is not. Gene, I thought you were going to hit me. Did you see who the Cleveland Browns? Did you see who they picked up this week as one in the quarterback room?
I know. They picked up. He played for the Ravens. Who is that guy?
Did. He did. Joe Flacco. Oh, I miss Joe Flacco, Gene. Oh, that's good stuff.
PJ, you're the best. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving to PJ Glasser. He's the best. So you got to roll with the punches there.
That was good. That was good.
As soon as I wanted to, I had something else, but as soon as he brought up Horvat, I'm like, aha. Oh, gosh. And Seth Appert probably wondering, what show am I going on here? Seth Appert, Rochester Americans head coach, as we will have time for your calls. Before we get to Seth, though, let's tell you who's in hot water. It's brought to you by Eat, Swim, and Leisure. And really, there's only one choice here.
I have full confidence, like I've told you, and like I've told you from the beginning, I have full confidence in our way of playing. Full confidence in myself as the play caller, in the way that we teach, and the way that we scheme. Full confidence in that. We got to bring this group together and do it consistently. Okay, and that's where it's at. So you can stop asking that question. Okay, I'm going to be calling the defenses. Okay, so we're clear. So you don't have to ask that again.
Stop asking that question. I'm in hot water. I'm Brandon Staley, the coach of the Chargers. That's bad hot water, but see how good hot water can be at Ace Swim and Leisure. They've been serving Rochester area families since 1962. It isn't very often something comes along as cool and different as the all-new jacuzzi swim spa. It's the right size. It's the right price. The pool spa combo that gives you the pro-grade water workout and therapeutic water massage. See the all-new jacuzzi swim spa for yourself at Ace Swim and Leisure's Chilai Avenue store today or aceswim.com.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the
Rochester Sports Update.
Philadelphia winning on Monday Night Football. The Bills' next opponent in Philadelphia. Buffalo a 3-point underdog for this game. Head coach Sean McDermott on going back to the place where it all started.
It was my first job in the NFL and a place I was at for 12 years plus. And, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot in my time there, mostly under Andy Reid, and it was a great experience.
Bills players off today. McDermott giving the team off also Thanksgiving Day. Pittsburgh Steelers today firing their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. Syracuse tried to make it close, but in the end, 11th-ranked Gonzaga just too much here at the Maui Invitational. Final score, Gonzaga 76 and SU 57. Amherst's back in action tomorrow night. We'll talk to head coach Seth Appert coming up next. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer's cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Takes the shot. It's knocked down in front. They shoot and score. Riley Stillman spins, puts it off the right post, inside, and the Amherst have come back to gain the lead.
Wow, that was quite a game. That you're showing the character of this team as the Amherst, a little bit of a speed bump there in the third opening minutes, but they come back and they put up 7 in the end to be victorious and get the split in Cleveland. And head coach Seth Appert joining us here. And coach, your thoughts here on the weekend that was in Cleveland. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. It was good. Both games were just really good hockey games. Obviously, Thursday's was more defensive in nature. It felt like a NHL playoff game a little bit in terms of the lack of space and how hard it was to create scoring chances. And then Saturday's a little more wide open. I actually thought we played real good defense for most of that game, and then had a little lapse for 5 or 6 minutes at the start of the third, and obviously a very good response after we got down.
Yeah, and again, about that response, because the third period, I think it's 3 goals in the first 7.5 minutes, and some teams might be like, no, it's not our night. Your team didn't do that. So the response there, Seth, what does that say about your team?
Yeah, we do have a lot of resilience in this group. I think that's built over time. Every year is different, but there are people that have been through multiple different years with us, the Prowse, the Mershes, Brett Murray, Brandon Byro, guys like that. And so I do think that there's a lot of belief. We've come through in some real hard times before. With 2 years ago, our lineup was completely decimated for 6-7 weeks, and we got through it and made the playoffs, and we've won elimination games. We've got our back against the wall, and all those things, that shared adversity you go through builds over time. And obviously this is a new team, but there are still enough guys that have that belief inside of them that we're going to find a way.
Yeah, and you're getting some help back. Mersch back with the team, Byro back with the team. How are things kind of settling in now as we kind of take a look ahead at the upcoming week here, Seth?
Yeah, last week it certainly, you felt like that was a little bit more our hockey team. To get Mersch back, to get Byro back, Rusek was back from Buffalo on Saturday. So there's some players returning this week. We'll get Weisbach back. So Murray's close, Cedarquist is close, and so you're starting to look like what it looked like at the beginning of the year. And but that's important in the American League. When you have a healthy lineup or there's not a lot of call-ups at a certain time, you need to make hay, because that's not the case. A lot of times in the American League, you have guys up, or you have guys out with injuries or whatever it is. And when you have the lineups that are a little beat up, you got to survive. And credit to our guys, we went 3-2-1 in this 6-game stretch where we had a lot of guys out of the lineup. And that's not unbelievable. You're not going to win any championships at 3-2-1, but that's pretty good considering the circumstances.
So Seth, I guess it's kind of a credit to the organization that these guys, it's a pathway up. And I guess it's a question about Kulik, maybe some of these other guys. And we've asked a variation of this question over the years. But now that we're approaching December here, and Kulik now, who's in double figures for what do you tell a player like this who is continuing to provide value here at this level that the opportunity hasn't come yet for the big one?
Yeah, I think Kulik and Roseanne are knocking on the door. I mean, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. And eventually you want to get to a spot like Quinn and Paterka and Samuelson and guys like that eventually you want to play your way out of the league. And you have to earn that. You'll get some looks here and there just based on how talented you are or how high you're drafted, things like that. But eventually you want to my goal is to get their habits in a place where when they go, we never see them again. That's my goal as a coach, is to make their habits so good that they look NHL ready when they arrive. And so they're getting close to that. They both have done a fabulous job. We've talked about this. I challenge them to now be drivers and leaders for us this year, even though they're young kids. They're doing that. I think this last 3 weeks is a great example of that. Without their play, not their points, without their leadership in their play, their competitiveness, we would not have survived these last 3 weeks with how many guys we had out. And that's a real credit to Roseanne and Kulik.
Yeah, as Seth Appert, our guest here, now we get the fun part. We get you back home, Seth, after a weekend in Cleveland. And when the schedule comes out, some people look at some things. I always look at this week. Hey, are the Amerks going to be home around Thanksgiving? Oh, that's awesome. They're home on Wednesday and Friday. I know that I get the sense that there's going to be people out there tomorrow because people are asking me for tickets. But your thoughts here is now you get Laval here, and remind everybody here, Laval, what this opponent is all about here.
Well, yeah, I think, don't be fooled by the record. They got a really good team. They're number one in the American Hockey League in expected goals for. So they're very dangerous offensively. They play a very fast, aggressive style of hockey. They've had some call-ups and some injuries up in Montreal, and so that's probably why their record is what it is. But this is an extremely dynamic, explosive team. They're going to pose a lot of threats to us. And, yeah, I mean, normally, I think a couple of years ago, within the last couple of years, maybe it was last year, playing home on Wednesday before Thanksgiving can be a pretty fun, rowdy crowd. It's a night that a lot of kids are home, people are back in. It's a social night, so I do anticipate a fun, rowdy crowd tomorrow night.
Do we get Wise back here? Give us an injury update here as far as what we can expect tomorrow night, Coach.
Yeah, Weisbach will be in. Murray not yet, and Cedarquist not yet. But Weisbach will be in. He'll play tomorrow. Cedarquist and Murray, we're hoping for the weekend with those guys. Saccone's still out for a bit. Warren's still out. Nadeau's still out. But the injury list, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was joking around with Michael Dash, our trainer, that I liked his team a lot, meaning the guys that were on the injured list that he was working with every day. So that list is getting smaller and smaller, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So Dominic Mersch, Michael Mersch. Can we find a place for Dominic Mersch here, like to keep those guys together here on the team, Seth?
Well, the tough part with all those guys, and we've had so many guys come up from Jacksonville already, and they've all done a really good job. Is they need to play, especially the young guys. Dom Mersch, a rookie. Riley Fiddler-Schultz is a rookie. And so it's not good for them to be here when they're out of the lineup. They are young developing players that need to be in the lineup, and so. We love having them here. It'd be very easy to keep them around because they're good players and they're great kids that work hard. But when your lineup is full and they'd be out of our lineup, it's not healthy for them to not be playing this early in their career. So it's better for them to be in Jacksonville developing.
Yeah, Seth, I want to kind of offer apology, but it was just kind of the way the world was at last week for our weekly conversations, because right before we're going on the air, oh my gosh, the Bills make this big move at the coach, and you kind of realize, my gosh, like the coaches are people too, and you guys are under pressure. And I'll ask you the question this way, Seth, because you are a family guy. How do you manage pressure, when the weight of the world sometimes is on a coach's shoulder here when things aren't going right?
Yeah, it's there's a lot. I think that, and as a head coach, you try to burden a lot of that to relieve that from your staff or your players, because the most important thing is you want your staff to operate properly, and you want your players to play freely. So I think as a head coach, you do accept a lot of that pressure and stress, and that just comes with the territory. But for me, I run. That's the best thing I know how to do to relieve stress or pressure. Is I go for almost daily. I go for anywhere from a 4, 5, 6, 7 mile run, and usually I feel better mentally and physically. My head's clear. I solve problems. But it's a pressure packed position. Everybody's job is stressful. Ours is just public. And so that it's a public stress. It's out there for everybody to consume and see, and but that's what we sign up for, and we know that when we take the position.
Yeah, I guess if we have a bad day, we go home and everything's okay. Or you go home and people are still talking about it. That's the good and the bad, I guess, of being in pro sports. Talking about running, it begs the question here, because we love to run here on the show. Seth, have you run the Erie Canal Path yet?
Yes, yeah, I run the Erie Canal Path, which is awesome. I also have a great path through downtown Rochester. You start from the rink, go through Main Street, and then go all the way down east. East is such a gorgeous street with the big old mansions, and then all the way down east to almost to Wegmans, and then all the way back up Park, and then back through downtown. And both Park and East are two of my favorite streets in Rochester. Just a really cool area. So those are probably my two favorite runs in Rochester, the canal and that.
Yeah, good advice there, handling stress running. Seth, it is a week. I don't want to call Thanksgiving a distraction. It's a little different here. So how do you manage that day? Is it a morning skate there? Or are you going a little lighter there a night after a game? How does that kind of work with the day in between the two games there?
Yeah, we're not going to skate. We're going to give the guys are going to come in the morning on their own. And do a little recovery with our strength coach, Nick Craven. But that just gives the guys some freedom to choose how they want to handle that day in terms of getting their body ready for the next day. It gives them a little more freedom to spend time with family if they're in. And it gives our staff, our support staff, especially our support staff, the opportunity to be at the rink less time that day. So our guys have been great. When I give guys days off, our guys usually respond extremely well to it. It's a long season, so managing rest is a key component when you're looking at the schedule. And this is a hard week because we're home Wednesday, Friday, which is great, but then we have like a 5-hour bus ride, and we play Lehigh Valley on Saturday. So it's a pretty demanding week in terms of 3 and 4 with a lot of travel on the Friday to Saturday. So rest will be a weapon as the week goes on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's 11 straight. You this would be in division at least. Is it a welcome thing? Like, okay, here's a new opponent there.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a welcome thing to have a 5-hour bus ride after a game, and then have to play that next day. It's just one of those games in the schedule, and we've talked about this before, that you're set up to lose, and we're going to have to try to find a way to win. I think we learned a lot last year. Last year we went to Lehigh straight after the game, got in about 3:45 in the morning, and we had zero chance to win that game. Then we went to Springfield later in the year, and we went about 3 hours, and then pulled off on the side and got a hotel. So the guys got to bed at a normal time, like that 1:15, 1:30 time frame, which is about the time they'd go to bed anyway. And then we had an hour and a half into Springfield the next day. So we're going to do that. I think we were way better. We won the game in Springfield. Like I said, we had no chance in the Lehigh game. So I think we've adjusted that, and we'll probably put our guys in a better position to win that game.
I'm trying to think, where would that be? Would that be Scranton? Would it be Binghamton? I mean, trying to
question. I think it's somewhere just south of Binghamton, the southern end of Binghamton, I believe it is. That's Amir Gulati, who does our logistics and our video. I just give him, this is what I want, and he handles it. He's phenomenal at his job and does a great job for our guys and all those things. So the beauty of that is I know that stuff's handled, and I don't even have to think about it once we set the schedule.
It's good to have a good logistics guy always, logistics person right with you. Last one, Seth, and that is Thanksgiving itself. Now, your family lives out in Michigan. Are they going to be able to come in and celebrate with you?
Yeah, they're getting in here this afternoon, so I'll get to spend tonight with them. A little bit tomorrow. They'll shoot over to Niskayuna, New York, which is the town we lived in for 10 years when I coached at RPI. Just an unbelievable town, a bunch of families there that were amazing to us. And I'll shoot over there after the game Wednesday, spend, 18 hours with them or so, and then get back here Thursday night and get ready for Friday. So we'll get a little time with friends and family.
Wow. Okay, well, be safe, Seth. Appreciate always your time, and, go beat Lavelle this weekend, please.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Seth Appert, head coach of the Rochester Americans, joining us here on the show today. As I'm fired up for this, and I'm thinking if I had to play the attendance game, I'd like to see 15,000 between the two nights. And again, I'm not joking when people are like, "That's how I count my own barometer." Hey, do you have tickets for tomorrow night? The answer is no. I don't have any tickets for tomorrow night. All right, I'm sorry.
You can't sneak them in, Gino?
No, I get right. I don't want to be like, no, I don't want to be breaking any law or anything like that.
Understood.
All right. So.
There were some good things in there. I know he mentioned the running, and I can vouch for this. I have gone up to Buffalo, obviously, for the rookie tournaments in preseason, and I can vouch. I've seen him running alongside Canal Side.
Yeah.
I saw him one year, a couple years ago, running along Canal Side where the ships were one afternoon. So I can vouch for him. He does run a lot. Then also, obviously, there's no NHL action tonight, and he mentioned Lehigh Valley. And if you have NHL Network, you can maybe scout them. They're playing Toronto tonight, so
that's
if you,
on
NHL Network. If you want to check out some action, AHL action,
how is there no NHL tonight?
I don't know because there's games tomorrow. I don't know how the league decides this, but I'm just something that you could think about.
Yeah, so we will have that for you in just a little bit. That is tomorrow. Amherst Hockey, Don Stevens at 7:00. We've got some NFL news and notes today, and this, if this were a different time of year for the Buffalo Bills, we'd be like, oh my gosh, there's veteran defenders out there. Should we go get them? And I'm going to caution you why that's not a good idea here, as we'll kind of go over the news and notes. The coordinator that everybody was begging for to get fired did get fired today. Some news and notes from around the NFL. We will also have a fantasy update coming for you as well. That is coming up and more. My name is Gene Battaglia, and this is the Sports Bar here on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite
Sports. You've come to the right place. 95.7 FM, The Fan, Rochester.
Come back negative. I believe, I haven't seen him today, but according to our trainers, he's in a good spot and has a chance to play on Sunday.
As Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott on Taylor Rapp as, good chance to play on Sunday. If he's saying that now, then I would be inclined to believe that he's going to get cleared. But this is a week, though, that when it comes to Bills news and information, it's going to be scant in terms of, and here's why. Because Wednesday, the Wednesday injury report, can you really glean a lot off of it? It's going to be Thursday, where everything is shut down on Thursday. That Sean McDermott gave his organization the day off to be with their families. But what he's saying is, hey, come back Friday, be ready to go. And on Friday, we're going to learn more at that point where we are in the protocol here for the two guys in the secondary, namely Taron Johnson and Dane Jackson. Talking to Matt Perino in the 3 o'clock hour today, he's identifying Johnson as being the one. Dane Jackson, certainly quality corner, but now that you have Rasul Douglas on one side, and certainly you have Christian Benford, and that's a homecoming game for Benford, who played at Villanova. Those two guys, I think, can hold down the fort there. Cam Lewis going against Devontae Smith, that does not bode well there. So to me, that is also kind of a problem for this Bills team here. So keep an eye on that, but we're not going to learn anything until Friday at the earliest on that. More news and notes coming up in a bit. Time now for Who's Hot and Who's Cold in Fantasy Football. It's brought to you by Air Quip Heating and Air. Right now, who is hot? Somebody, I'm going to give you two guys. One guy, if you said, hey, this guy is available in he's available in 92% of Yahoo leagues right now. We're like, really? You're kidding me. 7 targets, 4 receptions, 116 yards. That would be Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ showing up, and here's why. It's somebody you want to probably not only pick up, but maybe actually consider him in the flex this week. Unfortunately, Mark Andrews, he is out for the year with that ankle injury, so that is problematic. Odell Beckham Jr. is on the injury report with a shoulder injury. I don't think you have anything to worry about there. Also, and this is kind of a team that right now is farting around the Green Bay Packers. Jaden Reed, wide receiver, who was running the ball a little bit, carried it 3 times for 46 yards, caught 4 passes for another 46 yards, and he's got 5 touchdowns in the season. So Jaden Reed, a player that right now is only rostered in 36% of Yahoo leagues. So 2 players right now that I would consider as being hot. Who's cold? How about a guy that is rostered on 88% of the rosters, but, oh my gosh, right now he's wide receiver 45 in fantasy. And I don't know if he's going to get any better. I'm talking about Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis right now is droppable. Gabe Davis at some point I would think maybe would pop. Good luck trying to figure out which one that is going to be against. So, unfortunately, and what is the tell for me here when you hear the coach pump the tires, as Joe Brady did yesterday, saying, hey, Gabe Davis did a lot of things that you didn't notice here. I'm paraphrasing here. Oh, did he really? Not so sure on that. Gabe Davis, our player to drop here, who's cold in fantasy football, brought to you by Air Quip Heating and Air Conditioning. It's fun and it's challenging to know when to start a player that's heating up or bench one that is cooling off. It's not fun to be too hot or too cold in your home or business. Make the best lineup call you can today and call Air Quip. Some other news and notes from around the NFL. The Colts today waiving Pro Bowl linebacker, 4-time Pro Bowl linebacker Shaq Leonard. Earlier this month, Leonard expressed his frustration in playing time, and his playing role has decreased over time. Leonard, a first-team All-Pro in 2018, in 2020, in 2021. He was second All-Pro in 2019, but underwent 2 complicated back surgeries last year. He's got some nerve damage, signed through 2026, but has no guaranteed money beyond this year. Oh, I hate to see that for his sake, because that's it. So will a team roll the dice on Shaq Leonard? Maybe, but for that team that does bring him in, this is not the same guy that you saw just being a monster there in the middle of that Indianapolis defense there. Shaq Leonard, who was this all-pro linebacker, and these guys burn out quick. Tom Brady went full on old man yelling at the clouds mode today, talking to Stephen A. Smith. Quote, I think there's a lot of mediocrity in the NFL. I don't see excellence that I saw in the past. I think coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. I don't think the schemes are as good as they were. Oh, my gosh, Tom, listen to yourself here, buddy. Like, there were years where the Patriots are kind of muddling through here, too. What he's saying is that right now there isn't a team of excellence in the NFL. Even the Eagles themselves, like every time like you hear the Eagles in postgame, they're not all like high in money. They know they got away with one last night. There's no doubt. The Chiefs just handed that one over. And Mike Tomlin says this was his decision and his decision alone, that he didn't need to consult with his GM, Omar Khan. He didn't need to consult with the team owner, Art Rooney II. Matt Canada today fired as the offensive coordinator. It's going to be running back coach Eddie Faulkner. It's going to take over the OC roles, but quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan is going to handle the, quote, bulk of the play calling responsibilities. Pittsburgh taking on Cincinnati, and what you would think would be a winnable game. Dan DeLorean, our number, 866-4326. What do we got, buddy?
We have Tom in Rochester. He wants to talk about some Bills.
Tom, welcome, buddy. Happy Thanksgiving. What's going on?
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Listen, I've called before, about McDermott. He's fired his scapegoats. We'll see if he survives this year. But, what I did like about Joe Brady, and I mentioned it, prior to Dorsey being fired, was, there were several times in the game, at least two that I remember, that you had Allen sprinting out, throwing on the run, showing that great arm, showing that mobility, moving the pocket. And look, I know that there's a lot of, talk about how he got the running backs involved and whatever, but, I think the next evolution is really just keeping the defense guessing. Will he run? Will he run? Sprinting them out, getting the backs involved, obviously working in the wide receivers. But to your point, and again, this was already when I was on hold, that point about Davis is shocking. It really goes to show you that, how we're kind of handcuffed in a number two that really didn't develop into a full-fledged number two wide receiver, and how that's kind of, put us behind the eight ball in terms of attacking defenses.
Yeah, Tom, thank you, and all great points. First, let's start off with the Allen moving the pocket thing. Absolutely. When you have Josh Allen moving, people think that's running and design runs, and that's part of it. But when you get him moving around, he's more engaged. You can just kind of tell that's the way he's played football since way back when. Get him where he's most comfortable, and when that's most comfortable, he's on the move. Name me a quarterback. You could say Mahomes. Okay, fine. A quarterback that is more comfortable throwing on the run. He can do it. Josh Allen is the rare quarterback. He did this in the preseason game against the Bears where he can look across the grain, throw across his body. 99% of the quarterbacks in the league don't do that. No, you could say do that with Josh Allen. He can see things. He's got the arm strength to kind of do it. Now back to Gabe Davis, and this has been the hot button topic. I mean, I mentioned how I don't want to say stormed out because that's not what he did, but he left right after that game. No shower, street clothes, get out of here. I don't want to talk to reporters there. And then you had Joe Brady, going out of his way in the call yesterday saying, well, he did a lot of things. He opened up a lot of... Gabe Davis is a captain on this team. Gabe Davis is also in a contract year. And to me, when you're doing things like that, you're, after your team wins and you don't want to talk about it afterward, why? Because you're upset that you didn't get the ball enough? No, that doesn't work for me. And it's not a one-time thing. It wasn't the play against the Broncos. It was everything. There's been many times where he and Josh Allen have not been on the same page, and then all of a sudden you give a few targets to Khalil Shakir, and look what happened. It was somebody. Was it Perino last week? Forgive me, but he brought up the great point. Oh, it was Trapasso. Chris Trapasso had the point. You got to think of how Gabe Davis kind of burst onto the scene, because when Josh Allen and the Bills offense started moving the ball, and it was a lot of fun, that was the pandemic year. That was the year where, oh my gosh, this is one of the best offenses in football. 2019 playoff team, but we weren't saying one of the best offenses in football. It was one of those, okay, they're kind of developing, but they really don't have receivers. And, well, in 2020, you had for the first time Steph Diggs as your true number one. And that allowed Cole Beasley to get matchups as the number 2, and it allowed single coverage for John Brown, who still had something left to offer at that point. And your number 4 receiver, every once in a while, like, okay, that's Gabe Davis as a number 4. Gabe Davis, come to find out, he's not a number 2, maybe not a number 3, he's a number 4. That's where he's at right now with this Bills team. And if you want to debate that, like, okay, let's go over where the target should go from here on out. Diggs, of course, number 1. Dalton Kincaid is so exciting. Like, I would just ask, like, oh my gosh, was it a Dawson Knox injury that forced you to discover what Dalton Kincaid could be for this offense? Or is this just the natural evolution? Well, yeah, Dalton Kincaid should be getting the second most targets on this team. And the third right now, I would say it's Khalil Shakir. And I'd also listen to the argument if the teams want to ignore a James Cook. Maybe at some point we get the James Cook 7-reception game because teams are just too worried about the other pieces. Again, those are 4 steady pieces on this team right now. Diggs, Kincaid, Shakir, Cook. It's all been there right in front of the Bills this whole time. And maybe the answer is just as simple as, you know what, Gabe, a little back. And Gabe can come in and there will be some game, I guarantee, where Gabe Davis will have 6 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown. And we'll be like, oh, he's back. No, it's just the league. Maybe the ball will go his way. As this happens when Mike Danger is not here, I totally do not pay any attention to the clock as Dan's like, Gene, happy hour, wrap it up. We want Tom, great call. We invite more of your calls. Come on, be our wingman. It's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Give us a call. Happy hour coming up next here on the Fan Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Buffalo Bills open as a 3-point underdog. That's it on the road in Philadelphia this week. Gonna be a tough task. Chris Brown on One Bills Live on what concerns him.
I will tell you, though, that the kind of rusher that Hassan Reddick is the one that has historically given Spencer Brown problems because he's so tall and long. A shorter, bendier player can get underneath his arms, underneath his shoulder, and those are the guys that do give Spencer Brown problems.
Those players are off today. Head coach Sean McDermott has given the team off on Thanksgiving Day. Pittsburgh Steelers today firing offensive coordinator Matt Canada. Syracuse got blown out in the Maui Invitational today. Gonzaga winning 76-57. Amherst are back in action tomorrow night at home as Laval comes to town. Gene Battaglia in the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Touchdown, Jalen Hurts! A drop at the 2 by Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Oh no! The Eagles come from 10 points down at halftime to beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead 21-17.
The Eagles move on to a home game against the Bills.
It's hard to call the Bills a trap game, but short week, Thanksgiving week, I think that greatly increases the chance of the Bills knocking them off.
We should thank Sean McDermott for putting 12 men on the field in that last play, because it has now brought us our new prodigal son, Joe Brady.
Yeah, that's our guy.
Mike Danger.
The Eagles, they're physical. Smash mouth, if you will. Hard-nosed, Philadelphia, blue-collar, tough, brawny, hard-working. You know what it is? Lunch Pail City.
Gene Battaglia.
The next three are very difficult. Do the Buffalo Bills have the makeup to take 2 of the next 3? Because if the answer is yes, then you got to get this one in Philadelphia this week.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We are high-stepping like Deion Sanders to the holiday weekend. Welcome to Happy Hour, and hopefully tomorrow is a lighter day for you, and hopefully you get Thanksgiving off. Happy Thanksgiving. It is my favorite week of the year, and I would say, some people would say tomorrow night's a favorite. No, tonight is my favorite night of the year because it just sets up for a great weekend ahead. And if you love sports, there's sports on right now. Now, don't let Syracuse getting blown out by Gonzaga kind of, dampen your mood. We had that on the monitor here. Gene Battaglia with you. Danger is off this week. Dan DeLorean is alongside. I was watching a lot of this last night at Trivia Night, and we have it on the monitor now, like the Maui Invitational. It's on every year. And I look at this every year and there's nobody there. Like last night, you had number 1 Kansas. This is the home team, Chaminade. Nobody there. Right now, UCLA. Nobody there. You could sit courtside. I'm not kidding. And in Syracuse Gonzaga, you could sit. Why do they do this? Well, it kind of dawned on me, like, if I'm going to take a vacation to Hawaii, do I really want to go indoors and watch college? Even though you have some of the best teams in the nation, like number 1 Kansas and UCLA and Gonzaga. No, I'm not going to go inside. So I think they need to change this up here, because if it's a made-for-TV product, which the Maui Invitational is a made-for-TV product, and do you really need it as a recruiting tool anymore? Like, that used to be a recruiting tool. Like, hey, you know what? In 2 years, we're going to go to Hawaii. Oh, wow. I'm going to sign on with you, coach. No, I mean, like you're paying players now. They can go pay their own way in the offseason to go to Hawaii. No, I change up the aesthetic here. Like, put this in a YMCA or put it outside on the beach or something like that. That would make it look like, hey, this is actually in Hawaii. Like, have an outdoor kind of game. Like, figure that out there, because, like, in an empty gym. Anyways, time for your calls here. It's Happy Hour. We will be talking. If you want to talk, I would suggest doing it now, because we have head coach Wayne Wilson, RIT men's hockey, as the Tigers nationally ranked, and they have New Hampshire coming in this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Speaking of fun things to do here in Rochester, that conversation will be coming up later here. Again, our number on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. We, of course, are on the FM, on the AM. You can watch us online right now in YouTube and Twitch. And again, we will not be here tomorrow. Conclusion from last night. The Eagles got away with one, I suppose. And this isn't a first-time thing, like where we dissect the Buffalo Bills, and we here in Western New York and Rochester have set the bar high for this team. That ain't it. And it wasn't a shock that the Bills did what they did with Dorsey last week. How it came about may be shocking, but this is the move I guess McDermott had to make if he wanted to save the season. What are they saying right now in Kansas City? Because this is not a first-time thing. And I don't think it's a coaching thing. I think it's a personnel thing. I don't think they have the receivers on that team. I don't know if Travis Kelce is going to hold up. I mean, that is a pedestrian group they have. And the greatness of Mahomes and that offensive line over the years has been enough to kind of propel them. But, no, I'm sorry. Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, none of them are a one. It's a bunch of threes there on that team as far as receivers. And that's not an offense that's going to scare anybody. And with all that being said, don't turn the ball over. They win that game. So here's Philadelphia. They're 9-1. And they're the next opponent for the Buffalo Bills. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, if you're a Bills fan, give me teams that right now you're like, I don't know if I like their chances in this league. I named 4. Kansas City Chiefs are not in that conversation anymore. I'm sorry. Right now, if the Bills are heading to Kansas City, I like their chances. I think that's a team that they could beat. In fact, I would say of the next 3 games, that looks like the most winnable. Dallas is playing really well on both sides of the ball. Philadelphia, admittedly, every time you listen to an Eagle player, they're saying they haven't played their best football. No, they haven't. That's a team that has not hit their stride. But they're 9-1. And knowing what the Buffalo Bills have this week in terms of their problems in the secondary, and to kind of review, yes, Taylor Rapp should be back, but Taron Johnson, concussion protocol. Dane Jackson, concussion protocol. Dane Jackson is a third corner. Maybe the Bills can kind of get away with that. I don't know Taron Johnson with Cam Lewis. Matt Perino joined us earlier, and he says he's a part of the Cam Lewis fan club. And look, we've had Cam Lewis on the show. This is like you really don't want to find out how good your depth is until you actually have it tested. So, to me, that is a scary mismatch if you put Devontae Smith in the slot and you're going to have Cam Lewis there. But, Gene, don't worry, you're going to have the safety help. Well, we should also point out we're not exactly 100% sure Micah Hyde's status for this game. He had the neck stinger. The news for coming out on One Bills Drive is going to be a little scant this week because the team's off today. They're off on Thursday. And, we'll pay attention to the Friday injury report, certainly. But I'm bringing you back is the backdrop where I want to, and I will give you my pick for this game here in a little bit. But I look at the betting line for this, and we all kind of do this game, like you tried to guess what the line is. And I had it Philadelphia by 6 or 6.5. Matt Perino said 4.5, 5. It's actually Philadelphia by 3. That's it. So we talked to PJ Glasser earlier, and he's the betting expert, and he's taking Buffalo plus 3 in this. It's almost like Vegas is saying, hey, come on over here, because they know if they put Philadelphia a little higher, if you're going to give Buffalo a little more points here on that you're going to be inclined to think, okay, the Bills play close games when they lose. 6.5 looks pretty enticing. No, they only made it 3 for a reason. They want you to bet Philadelphia in this game. Because, therefore, you're thinking that maybe it is Buffalo. My pick for this game, I think this is going to be a close one, and the way the Eagles play these games is like last night. Every possession is going to kind of matter, and they're not going to be quick strike kind of plays. I see the Bills losing this one 23-20. It's going to be a close loss, and again, this could change in my opinion, but I have to give you my pick here on a Tuesday since we won't be on a Friday. And let's say the news comes back, all good for Taron Johnson and Dane Jackson. But those injuries in the secondary, I'm just fearful that that's going to give Jalen Hurts enough time to find an open guy, and maybe it's too much. Now you could say, well, what about the offensive side of the ball? What about the offensive side of the ball? And we had a great conversation with Matt Perino today talking about the changes here with Joe Brady and everything else, and talking about how it's now incumbent upon Gabe Davis if he gets another opportunity to make the most of it here, because Khalil Shakir is clearly looking like, the guy who's going to slide in as a wide receiver too. Even though he's more of a slot guy, you can move Diggs around. You can get him. Perino suggesting too that with the Eagles secondary being a little sketchy, that maybe, just maybe, finally, this is the game where you're going to take a couple shots for Deontay Hardy. Like the Hardy and Sherfield signings. Sherfield, one play on the Dolphin game. Hardy, the one play in the Giant game. But outside of that, it's been kind of lacking for those secondary receivers on this Bills offense up to this point. So I'm looking forward to just a great week of football. You can enjoy Thanksgiving Day without any stress of Buffalo Bills football. To me, Thanksgiving Day, I'm just kind of immune to, caring about the matchups. These matchups are not great. The Lions should pace Green Bay. Dallas should take care of Washington. By the way, CeeDee Lamb is just fine. He's going to play in that game. Night game's kind of interesting, but I got, full disclosure. Like, night game, that's when, maybe the family, if they want to watch a movie or something else, I don't want to be the guy that's going to crawl into my cave there and watch. Maybe that's the game I'm not tuning in for, but it's a good one. San Francisco and Seattle. The news in the NFL today, though, and let's position Mike Tomlin against Sean McDermott, because Sean McDermott had to make this call last week. And it was the timing of that call. After a horrific loss at Denver, we're still talking about it. If the Bills missed the postseason, that's the game that we're all going to be like, oh my gosh, can't believe you did that. But Dorsey, the decision to move on from Dorsey, at least after the Jet game, proved to be the right one, did it not? Let's compare this to what Mike Tomlin did today. First time, and they've thrown this around since 1941, that the Pittsburgh Steelers organization has let go a head coach or a coordinator in season. That's unbelievable. It's almost like one of those, that can't be right. And then you go check it out and okay, that's right. And Mike Tomlin today just said, this was my decision. I did not check with the ownership. I did not check with my GM. I made this move on my own. That's what leaders do. And sometimes being a leader is a lonely position. While that's true, leadership can be lonely, I will also say that Mike Tomlin does what every coach in this league does. They lie. They lie. There's no way you fire your offensive coordinator without checking off with your GM or your owner. Can you imagine, you're the owner, Art Rooney II, and you're looking at Twitter. You're like, oh my gosh, Tomlin just fired. No, it's not happening. Can you imagine the GM be like, Coach, wait a second. Why has Canada got a box in his hand there? Mike Tomlin's a liar. Of course he checked it off and he told the GM and the head, the owner. And maybe he phrased it in a way, said, guys, this is what I want to do. Speak now or forever hold your peace. No? Okay, we're going to be good. No, what he did there was, and I think it's smart on his point, was there's no speculation. I am in charge here. Where with McDermott, did that come from McDermott? Probably. But maybe it came from Terry Pegula. And with McDermott, we give him the benefit of the doubt. That's McDermott making the decision. Somebody please explain to me what happened with Leslie Frazier. Nobody is yes, Leslie Frazier spoke last week and he still continues to, take the high road on everything. But man, oh man, the more I think about that seems like, the owner deciding here, after the season's kind of over, yeah, maybe we ought to kind of make a move there. Well, Mike Tomlin doesn't want to leave any room for speculation there. He's the decision's mine. The difference here between the two moves, by the way, is that the Bills have the pieces. That's what's so frustrating about this Bills season. Yeah, it's a frustrating season. You see the pieces on offense. You know what good football looks like. You know the potential of this team. Okay, there's a gap here. What's the gap? Maybe it's the coach. Okay, let's compare that to the Steelers here. Is anything really going to change? No, Kenny Pickett sucks. Kenny Pickett is a game manager at best. And he was doing as best he could as a game manager. They're winning games, but not because of their offense, and certainly not because of Kenny Pickett. Is that going to change all of a sudden because you got a different play caller? Like, I guess somebody had to take the fall there for, like, Kenny Pickett, year number 2, being where he's at. Funny how, like, it used to be, hey, you got to give a quarterback 3 years. No. The way the college game is now, that's not the case. It's year 1. You can kind of tell. Like, are we really ready to make a declarative statement on Bryce Young? I am. That ain't it. Bryce Young, that was the wrong choice. This could be like a Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf type of miscue, except in reverse. Like the Colts end up with a Hall of Famer, they win a Super Bowl, and the Chargers are left holding the bag with Ryan Leaf. Well, it was the Panthers who actually traded up for Bryce Young, and Bryce Young hasn't given you anything so far this year. But I digress. Like, I think with Kenny Pickett, Steeler fans can debate this with me. I'm not so sure he's the guy for the job. Again, Syracuse losing today. We have RIT head coach Wayne Wilson coming up. We'll get the shots here a little earlier than we normally would. Shots in the sports bar as, the story in the NBA, a little strange to, talking about the Knicks suing another team. That shouldn't be happening in any league. You should be keeping this stuff in-house. I'm just wondering if things are starting to spiral away from Adam Silver. We can talk about that. We've got a fun Met note of all things today. And Dan Campbell, debatable eating habits on Thanksgiving Day. We will talk about that. My name is Gene Battaglia. Mike Danger is off today. It's the Sports Bar here on The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country.
update.
Bills a 3-point underdog on the road in Philadelphia this week. The Eagles getting a win on Monday Night Football. Head coach Sean McDermott on going back to the place where it all started.
It was my first job in the NFL and a place I was at for 12 years plus. And, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot in my time there, mostly under Andy Reid, and it was a great experience.
Bills players off today. McDermott giving the team off on Thanksgiving Day as well. Pittsburgh Steelers today making a big change, firing offensive coordinator Matt Canada. Pittsburgh taking on Cincinnati this week. Syracuse basketball falling for the second time in 2 days of the Maui Invitational. This to 11th ranked Gonzaga, 76-57 the final. Amherst hockey tomorrow night. We'll have it for you. The Amherst hosting Laval. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Rochester's home for live sports and the best sports talk anywhere. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
This team can beat anybody on any Sunday, no matter what. Josh, Diggs, Kincaid, this offensive line, they are a handful, but they got to play. Philly can play, man. They can go. So if you're going to win, you're going to have it full throttle and not turn it over. All of that stuff. If they do that, they can beat anybody, and they can certainly beat Philly this week.
I think Steve Tasker's right on the money today on One Bills Live. Now, it is asking a lot, though. Namely, don't beat yourself. And to me, that's the frustrating thing about this Bills season. All these losses, whether that was New England, certainly the Denver game, Cincinnati, all these games, the London game, and, of course, the opener. Just rattled off all the losses, all of them. You kind of beat yourself in every one of them. Nobody really kind of spanked you. I think Philadelphia, if they finally put it all together, has the ability to, but I don't think they will either. Part of it is the psychological thing where they beat Kansas City. That was the team that they, needed to get past in their own minds. Yeah. Well, then they get San Francisco next week. That's a bigger game. And Dallas in 2 weeks. That's a bigger game. Like, the Bills are literally the trap game here for the Philadelphia Eagles. You hardly ever see this, one team suing another in sports. Danger's not here today. I don't want to do it.
I can't do his.
I'm going to sue you for punitive damages. The Knicks today filing a $10 million lawsuit against the Toronto Raptors, alleging that thousands of confidential files were stolen. And part of this lawsuit alleges that the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, is too tight with Raptors president Larry Tannenbaum, and therefore Silver should not be involved, needs to recuse himself. The statement from MSG, quote, "We were the victim of a theft of proprietary and confidential files, which is a clear violation of criminal and civil law, and we remain confident that the court will decide in our favor on this matter." The Knicks are like the Sue guy. Like And that's part one here. Like, with the facial recognition and the thin skin owner, it's just a very difficult organization to get behind. I am dead inside as a Knicks fan. I really am. There's too many of these stories here, and maybe that's all true. But normally when you have a situation like this, you let the league deal with it. You're not taking it to the courts. Adam Silver, do you not have any power over the Knicks on this? Just to kind of check them and, like, let's handle this in-house. And if there's something that was done wrong, well, then there will be a penalty against Toronto. Take, for example, our organizations. Tom Brady literally cheated in a playoff game. Deflategate. Did the Colts take this to the courts? I don't think so. Now, this is a little different, of course, with an employee leaving and you sign your non-disclosure and everything. Well, okay, then that's a you and an employee thing. I don't think the Raptors sent in a spy. Give me a break. To me, this is embarrassing for the league, and it's embarrassing for Adam Silver. And I just think it's another sign that Adam Silver's grip on the league might be slipping a little bit. Now, that being said, we can pivot to what's on the court tonight. 5 games in the NBA, 2 on television we can watch. TNT has it. Sixers and Cavs, 7:30 by Utah and the Lakers at 10 o'clock. It's never too late to pay off a bet. It was back in May of 2022 that Francisco Lindor made a bet with teammate Jeff McNeil that one of them, if they ever won the batting title, would buy the other a car. Well, McNeil batted .324 in 2022, but there wasn't a car last spring training. There wasn't a car at any point last season. Till yesterday, a blue Ford Bronco arriving. I thought these two guys didn't like each other, Dan.
Yeah, he had the whole possum and the rat situation.
Yeah.
What was it? Lindor's first year? I don't remember what year that was exactly, but they had their post-game sound, and one said it was a rat and it was a possum, but I guess they were fighting in the clubhouse. But
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think it's just kind of like one of those, okay, that's next, moving on. Hot stove is, let me just kind of take a quick glance. Did anything happen today? Okay, so the Padres hiring Mike Schultz as their new manager. He gets a 2-year deal. And remember, they let the other guy walk to San Francisco because, well, he was due to make $4 million. That's how much dire straits the Padres are. Having to take a loan just to meet payroll, come to find out here. Finally, Lions head coach Dan Campbell. This is disappointing. Dan Campbell is not a turkey guy. Dan Campbell's Thanksgiving play, quote, must have is ham. I'm a big ham. And I was trying to find this today, Dan. So it'll come across your feed, I'm sure, at some point today. Must have is ham. I'm a big ham guy. I'm not a turkey guy, unless it's fried turkey. I'm not a dressing fan. I'm not a cranberry fan. I'll throw that right to the dogs. Everything else, I'll load up right on top of each other, full stack.
Yeah, I do know what Dan Campbell does like, though.
Well, normally what I do is I'll get 2 venti. I go to Starbucks. I get 2 venti of the pike with 2 shots in them. So black eye in both. That's what I come in with. That's how I start the day. So,
the thing I love about that the most, Dan, is the laugh track in the background.
The gasp, like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, like there's it's. No, I mean,
Something
how
like turkey? Come on.
How do we not have like Dan Campbell audio here of like him talking about his Thanksgiving power rankings here, and like turkey is not part of it, and stuffing. Who doesn't like stuff? First, it's not called dressing. Come on. What are you, like, born in the 1920s? It's not called dressing. We call it stuffing. That's the good part, right? You can just carb up stuffing, mashed potatoes, a little green beans there. Like
casserole.
Yeah, little mac and cheese, the rolls with the butter, everything. Like, I just love everything about Thanksgiving. And hopefully it's going to be a great holiday for you as well. As, again, here in the sports bar, we're going to be off tomorrow. So it'll be Zach Gelb, I believe, tomorrow. So Zach Gelb will be running the show here from 3 to 6. And then we're back on Monday. And I'm trying to wonder what the world will look like on Monday when Danger gets back with the Bills and the Eagles. Well, there's a lot happening in between now and then. We've got a couple Amerks games. We've got a couple RIT games. And when RIT plays, it's get a good crowd there out at the Policini as well. And we'll be talking to head coach Wayne Wilson. Get his thoughts here on the ranked Tigers here as they're taking on New Hampshire. My name is Gene Battaglia. This is the Sports Bar here on the Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the
The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Two ranked opponents square off this weekend. Number 20 RIT hosting number 10 New Hampshire. Head coach Wayne Wilson joining us here in the sports bar. And coach, if I may just kind of go down memory lane there, because to me, one of the most exciting moments in following your team over the years was one of those 5 minutes ago, like, oh my gosh, this was the win over New Hampshire. Like, they're actually going to do this. Does that seem like forever ago? Or does it seem like just yesterday there when you beat New Hampshire to advance to the Frozen Four?
Well, it does seem like a little while ago, that's for sure. But I can remember it very vividly, I guess. So it was all good, and looking forward to playing them again. I actually got my coaching start. My very first year as a full-time assistant was back in 87, 88 at UNH. So I'm glad I was able to get them on the schedule and looking forward to it. And they're having a great year.
Yeah, before we dive into that, no action last weekend. Kind of odd that you get some time off there in mid-November. So how did you manage everything for the team here this past week?
Yeah, it was kind of a good break. I think we've got through a good part of our schedule, at least roughly a third of our schedule, and so you are a little nicked up. So the break was nice. We don't normally get too many off weekends during the course of the year. If you get one, you're kind of lucky. And so we practiced 3 times last week, a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, gave them the weekend off. And they're really biting at the chump to get going here on Monday. So I'm looking forward to that and playing. It's a good time for a good test. Our break here, so to speak, the next 6 games are going to be all difficult games. And even coming back right after Christmas with Maine at the Dartmouth tournament, they're all going to be very difficult. And we'll get a clearer picture of where we are in the national scene, and then and we hope to do very well.
Yeah, let's talk about that national scene. Before I do that, Coach, for folks who may not know, because people know the NCAA basketball tournament, and that's, hey, you win your conference and you're in, and here's the at-larges, and then we all sit around the television on that Sunday and we figure out who's in. College hockey, that's not the case. That's where you have the automatic berth, and you win Atlantic hockey, easy peasy, you're in. But no, there isn't any at-large discussion where with a committee. It's actually the pairwise, the computer ranking that will tell you whether you're in or you're out. So that being said there, Coach, it's still November here, but is that at the forefront of your mind here? Are you playing, all out, or are you checking some different things out here this weekend? How much does pairwise go into what you're thinking here this weekend?
Yeah, well, it does play a part in it, but not as much what people think. First of all, you never know when you're doing your scheduling how that's even going to look. Obviously, if we were to win 2 games against New Hampshire, where I think their pairwise is in the top 10 anyways, that would bode well for us if we were able to get 2 wins. But just having them on the schedule bodes well for us. So when for us, us beating Notre Dame, it's great to see Notre Dame splitting with Minnesota. So we get a little credit for that. We get credit for our win-loss record, but also our opponent's win-loss record. And your opponent's win-loss record isn't as much as, obviously, your own. So, but UNH had beaten BU already, and, they've just come off Providence, splitting with Providence. And so, all their wins are going to help us, and then if we can beat them, we get credit for some of their wins as well. So, and not just the fact that we're playing a strong team, we'll get credit for playing a strong team that has won against other strong teams. So, I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can.
I got you. It's good to be in this position. One other follow up to that. Do you like this? Because from From an interest in the standpoint, I get why college basketball hasn't gone to this model where I'm thinking, well, that would be something if we just had some sort of version of this and tells you who's in and who's not, but they want everybody kind of tuning in for TV ratings and whatnot. Would you rather have it a committee here, Wayne, where you're taking intangibles and that sort of thing to affect who we be getting in, or do you like the system?
We've done it that way, and it never works out. I like the pairwise. Once all the games are completed, because even when there's 2 weeks left in the season, you think you know, but we find that it's very accurate. There's teams that are, when they if you become the 17th team and not in the top 16, you can almost point to the game or the two games that might have hurt you in that pairwise. That's how much you know at that particular time once the season's played out. But yeah, for us, I like this because it gets very regional, and if you're, from the West, you're going to think the West is way stronger than the East, and it gets very political. I like the pairwise a lot.
Yeah, Wayne Wilson, our guest here in the sports bar, and it's great that we're talking about matchups against hockey's team in New Hampshire, and you had Notre Dame, you've got Maine still coming up on the schedule. Wayne, what was that like when RIT made that jump? How far have you come? Because I would imagine when you first started out here, way back when, it must have been difficult just to schedule anybody, much less these top-ranked teams in the nation.
Well, it was tough to get them at home in particular, but I think our Blue Cross game, people speak favorably. All the big teams speak favorably of that, so we do have people wanting to play in that now, and so that's been a big bonus. Our new rink allows a team like UNH, when I say allow, they're much more interested in coming versus if it's not the nicest of rinks or anything or conditions to play in. Our crowd support, unfortunately, we're on Thanksgiving break, but I think we're anticipating a good community turnout, and we hope that's true for this weekend because we'll need that. But, yeah, there's a lot of factors in it, and you never know. I'm scheduling for 3 years down the road, so I don't know what those teams are going to be really like. You're anticipating that they'll be good, or you're hoping that they'll be good because you want to play meaningful non-conference games. And so, like I said, this weekend is one now that as the season started and they started winning and we were doing well, it started all of a sudden it's circled now that, this is going to be a big weekend.
Yeah, 7:05 Friday night, 5:05 Saturday afternoon. New Hampshire coming in. They're ranked 10th. You're ranked 20th. How's the health of your team heading into this weekend, Coach?
We're about as in good a shape as we've been in a long time. Adam Jeffrey, who not only broke his wrist but dislocated it, is now skating and practicing, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get up to speed for him, but it's good to have him back on the ice and skating with us. And so, we're really we've got everyone at our disposal here for the weekend, and except for Adam, and he'll be joining us shortly, and hopefully we can stay healthy in the meantime.
Yeah, for RIT, like you guys have been doing a great job recruiting, but now you have the benefit of saying, hey, we have scholarships athletically to offer, and we're starting to see some of the talent. But your decision here, Wayne, and it's not just your decision, it's Brian Hill's, David Salaka, your staff's decision here to keep the three freshmen together. You normally don't see three first-year players, but the job that Wild, Fukakusa, and Catalano, what went into that decision to keep all three guys, and all of a sudden, poof, here's an instant line for your team?
Yeah, well, I think really we knew they had chemistry, so that was, when you're looking for chemistry, that was already there. The fact that they were able to hold their own and now not only hold their own, but they're starting to contribute have all been factors, and I can't guarantee that's going to last the whole year, but we're happy with what we have right now, and we'll go with it until we feel there needs to be a change, and it's a long year, so changes sometimes are made just to create more interest, just give a little spark to your team, and then you can always go back to your original lines. But so we'll see as we go along. But for now, we're sticking with it, and they haven't been taken advantage of in their youth and experience, and they've been good.
Yeah, Wayne, I get this question from people that just want to know about the team. Like, hey, tell me, like, who are the guys on the team that we might see someday in the pros? I'm like, well, Carter Wilkie certainly, because he was in Vegas, the development camp. But I want to ask you about JoJo Casero, the defenseman. Wayne, I look at that shot, and I'm thinking, my gosh, this is as good a shot as I can see in hockey here. I mean, like, what are your thoughts on his chances here to be at the next level?
Yeah. Well, and the other part is shot is the most obvious, I think, but all of his game has really gotten better with each game and each year with us, and he's playing very well defensively for us. Offensively, him and Aiden are both guys that could have a future after RIT, and Cody Laskowski has played well, and then also Tommy Scarpone, and we're hoping that some smaller goalies can start making the NHL a little bit more often, and that'll open up the door for him a little bit, because everyone has traditionally been looking for big goalies, but there are some smaller goalies playing very well in the NHL, and he had a very good camp in Nashville this summer, so we're hoping that he continues on that path as well.
Yeah, so Wayne, looking forward to this now. It's a busy week. Certainly, you've got Thanksgiving now. Do you have family coming in? Do you get to see your grandson here coming up Thursday? How's that all kind of work out?
Well, I got to see my one grandson, or my newest grandson, this past weekend. So me and my wife made the trip to Boston and had a chance to visit with them, and he's 3 weeks old, so he's still just a little peanut.
How did I not know about this? Congratulations.
Yeah. So my son and his wife, Molly, had their first son, John Theodore, going by Teddy right now. And my wife is going to be traveling to Ohio for Thanksgiving with her family, and her father has just turned 85 years old, so they're going to do a little celebration there. And then she's coming back for the games with my daughter, husband, and my other two grandsons for the weekend as hockey enthusiasts. So I'm going to have a little bit of time by myself, which might be just a good enough time to watch a little football and whatever on TV, but and then they'll join me for the games this weekend.
You know, we're on the air live in Nesson here, Wayne. You got to pick you've got to pick your wardrobe out carefully for this one.
Yeah, I do.
Wayne, happy Thanksgiving. Always appreciate your time. And sorry to interrupt your dinner there. So
yeah, no problem. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Head coach Wayne Wilson joining us here in the Sports Bar again. Tigers home against New Hampshire Friday 7:05, Saturday 5:05. Damn, that's it.
That's it.
We powered over.
Time to wrap up the show.
That's it. Like Dan Drummy, producer extraordinaire today, hanging out here on the show with us. Special thanks on the show today to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard. Also today on the show, we talked to Amherst head coach Seth Appert. That was a fun hockey conversation. And PJ Glasser, with his best bets, says do not take Alabama in the points. His favorite player of the year, take Auburn in this game. All right, PJ, we'll be watching for that. And coming up next, CBS Sports Radio. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.